Probably helps if I turn the mic on. What is up, everyone? What's up? What's up? How's it going, Hans? How's it going, Abby? Yes, I said I may be streaming again on Tuesday. It's now Tuesday. We do have a lot of videos to make up for because I had like a crazy schedule the past few weeks that I kept having to miss streams and stuff like that, so yeah, things are happening. And I see that we got quite a few new folks over in the Discord, which is nice to hear. Gotta find out where I was last in the streams. Okay, we got that. What's up, Live and Learn? How's it going? I've been slowly getting through One Piece. I think I'm like 50 episodes away from where they're currently at right now. I think they're on that hiatus for a while, so I should be able to finish the Egghead arc. Looks like my Discord and Matrix notifications, as well as Blue Sky and Mastodon, are going out right now, courtesy to my AI. It's always funny to see how long the delay is, because AI is kind of dumb. You have to tell it specifics about how you want things to go, though eventually, if and when I get some NVIDIA DGX Sparks and I can put some bigger LLM models, that should fix a lot of its own self. I don't want to, rely on other LLMs from people being hosted, all that. I was told there would be good times here. Yeah, for a good time sorry, that's what I learned in a truck stop. But yeah, it's Tuesday. I'm just bored out of my mind currently at work because it's those final few days where I don't really have access. I'm just kind of sitting there for people to ask me questions. So today I literally helped one person with a couple of tickets I couldn't even work on, just kind of putting them in the right direction because they're more junior. And then another one was like, how do I find this asset? One of the senior guys, and I'm like, you may have to look it up through Wiz. You got it's an ephemeral asset probably, so you're gonna have to use that to tie in to see if it's whatever Kubernetes or EC2 auto launcher is built into it. And then basically what I did most of the day was I did 2 Network Plus practice tests because I'm trying to tackle the Network Plus this weekend. Oh, you like the shirt? Yeah, I've had this one for a few years now. It's one of the original System 76 shirts they sent to me. But yeah, I'm trying to go after the Network Plus this weekend, because it's part of my WGU curriculum. I've never really had the Network Plus cert or anything. Let me put it this way. It's not difficult. Well, I mean, it would be difficult if you don't know a lot of the stuff. It's that the difficult part is remembering a lot of stuff that I've forgotten or things that are not really relevant anymore. Like, it's literally having me answer questions about 10-100. So I'm learning about, I'm having to reteach myself about 10 base T, twisted pair, stuff that you're really never going to experience in an environment right now unless they haven't upgraded their hardware since the 2000s, the early aughts. And then things about fiber that I've forgotten because I haven't done networking on enterprise for a while, so but I'm scoring around like 80% or so on the practice exam, so that's something at least. But I want to make sure I'm not gonna waste my time and accidentally mess up from the wording or their stupid labs that have stupid settings that don't really matter. Anyway, yeah. 'Tis what it is. Because the funny thing is, I was looking at the Security Plus material. The Security Plus looks a lot easier than the Network Plus. But a lot of that could be because the Security Plus seems to be like CISSP Lite. So yeah, I have to, for the WGU bachelor's program, I got the A+ done, now I gotta get Network Plus, Security Plus, ITIL 4, Project Plus, Data Plus, Pen Test Plus. Those are the certs I have to get. And then the rest of it's just objective classwork and everything. But I think I've cleared 7 or 8 classes right now out of the 23 that I need to take. So I'm making steady progress. I just am really determined to get that knocked out. So yeah, last week of my current job, waiting for HR to give me the all clear at the new job. They have a colonoscopy of a background check to go through. I always find it weird. Why do they not do the background checks earlier on in the interviews? Shouldn't you know the person you want to give an offer to is actually able to do the job that you want? But yeah, so it's that bittersweet moment of the last week of work, because I'm talking to all my friends and coworkers there and, letting them know, hey, this is my last week. And then sending out, messages to people here's my personal contact info if you still want to keep in touch with me. After I am gone for a week or two at the old job, I'm gonna be looking into. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about where I worked, why I left. Talked a little bit about it, but there's gonna be a lot more tea. Nothing that's gonna cross ethical lines or legal lines, but there's a lot of learning lessons I think a lot of people can extrapolate from my situation so that you don't have to go through it. Well, Jessica, if you want the tea, I've already given you some tea I'm not going to go deep into. If you know, you know. We already discussed some of that in person. But, yeah. Oh, yeah, that was some good tea. Yeah, where you got a little bit more insight into some of the other drama that was happening. Yeah. You're going for your CCNA, previously a front-end engineer. Good luck on that. I don't think I'll go for the CCNA myself. I'm just gonna do the certs that, WGU requires me to do and keep my CISSP, and then after I graduate, I may take the CCSP. And then, I'm debating, going for my master's. I don't know if I'll go for the MBA thing, but I may go for the master's in cybersecurity, just to have that checkbox for HR. Where I work, private sector, but requires a security clearance. Clearance was handled before I started officially. Here is in Portugal. See, that makes sense. And I know there's money involved with it, but it's if you're gonna get to the point where, hey, we want to extend an offer to you, maybe around that point, somehow at least do a soft background check or something. You want your MBA for HR fun, but work won't pay for anything beyond the bachelor's. Well, yeah, it is a bummer, but WGU's pretty cost effective. I'll be honest for that. And if you already know your shit, there's nothing you're going to really learn in school, which is why I've definitely become more of an advocate of WGU, because at least there's some respect out there for HR to, get that checkbox. And it's competency-based, so it's not oh, what's your transcript? It's pass-fail. A lot of these things. Got a job for pen testing today. 50K salary, but I don't know if I'll take it. I'm so complacent. 50K is kind of low. Yeah. In America, isn't it possible to get scholarships to go on an MBA, or am I thinking wrong? It's possible to get scholarships for a lot of different things. You can get scholarships based on your ethnic backgrounds, too. There's lots of scholarships out there for ladies, for example. There's even scholarships if you are a ham radio license operator. The amounts vary, but there's scholarships for all sorts of things. Because there's a lot of independent foundations out there that will give you money towards school. And of course, if you're younger, there's things you're the first one in your family to go to college. There's there's a lot of different ones out there. Junior position. Yeah, but still, junior for a pen tester? I mean, I know people that were junior getting into the space that were starting out at 70 and 80. I mean, it also depends on what your background is for HR to, know your worth. But, and what the benefits are like and everything. That's the one thing I will say is it's stupid because if you don't have these stupid pieces of paper, then you don't get the stupid appropriate pay that you freaking should be getting. No, she's not in human resources. She's in cybersecurity. I'll let her speak if she wants to tell what specifically she does, but she's in cybersecurity. What is that? Anything IT related here, they will ask you to bring at least a statement you get at a police station with your criminal record stating you have no record at some point during late stage interviews. Huh, interesting. Just read HR, then another bold assumption. She's not in HR. She's definitely not in HR. As much of a people person and, a lovely presence as she is, I don't think she has the temperament to not want to cut a bitch. But yeah. Yeah, she's an architect with a strong love for identity. You could say that in her line of work, she has identity crises. Thank you. I'm here till Thursday. Tip your waitress, try the veal. All the time. HR is one of the biggest problems when it comes to a lot of the cybersecurity issues that we have. I will definitely say that. And I will also say that HR is not really your friend. I'm just being honest with you. Don't ever think HR is going to be on your side. HR is pretty much going to be on the side of just protecting the business. So keep that in mind. And don't do the stupid thing that some people do where they threaten litigation. Never threaten litigation. You surprise them with litigation if you do anything. I always heard HR is there to cover the biz backside. Pretty much. My mom did HR for many years. She always provides good insight to me about things. That's a good thing to have. Alright, so let's continue off from where we were last night on different content. So we have subscriptions are getting out of control from Cold Fusion. Hans shared this on the Discord. This is from February 5th. Man, we still have a 2-week backlog on content. This is interesting. Alright. We'll see what they have on this and if we end up watching the full video or not, but...
Hi, welcome to another episode of Cold Fusion. In 2022, BMW went bonkers, beyond the pale. In certain markets, drivers would need to pay an $18 monthly fee to use heated seats. Not to install them, not to upgrade them, just to turn them on.
Oh yeah, this is such bull that they're including the hardware and now it's a subscription thing. You can never own the hardware that is in your car anymore, basically.
Hardware was already inside the car, but without an active subscription, the feature stayed locked.
The auto industry is racing towards a future full of microtransactions. People just hate this, that the expense of installing the hardware to perform the task it's in there, it's already been paid for, but that there's a software lock that is in between me and using that feature which was installed.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is also a big reason why piracy is starting to increase. Because, yeah, as you were just saying, we're going to jailbreak cars now. Yeah, that's basically where I was going with it. Because I own my car. I should be able to do whatever I want with my car. It's one thing if I buy a car and it physically doesn't have that option. Like in the case of Tesla, you can unlock more power, you can unlock more range, and it's physically there, but it's software limited. I don't like that. Now, if I buy, let's say, a Dodge Charger, and I don't get one that has a supercharger on it, okay, that makes sense. I don't have a supercharger on it. But if I want a supercharger, I can install a supercharger. And this is where I think people are starting to understand what's legal may not always be ethical. And what's ethical, may not necessarily be legal either. What I mean by that is, I think we're seeing the ethical point of view where people are hacking cars to unlock more features. I have paid for this car. I am entitled to be able to use the car as I intend it. And you should not paywall features behind it that are physically on the car. Tesla taxis, £5 for airbags enabled. Pretty much, yeah. Touch start? Nah, tap to pay start. Pretty much. If buying isn't owning, piracy isn't theft. And that's what I mean by we're entering the era where what's ethical may not necessarily always be legal. And I think that's also why a lot of people have been pirating games and pirating movies and such. And it's not as hard in the music industry because it's not gotten as bad as that. We've got Apple Music and Spotify, but even then people are like, my playlists are getting removed, and I've started to move to ripping discs again and ripping vinyl for my little Tangara MP3 player, which has replaced my iPod Classic. The build price you pay already includes the cost of all the materials. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What about software? I think we just touched on that.
It's a perfect
TikTok's always
example of the
slower than the rest of the
exploitation
streaming
modern businesses
platforms.
try to get away with these days. BMW has since backed away from the idea after heavy backlash, but the story
Good.
still matters because BMW was never really the whole point. They were a bellwether for our modern age, a sign of where we were heading. Because if you take a look around you, subscriptions are everywhere now. It's gone way beyond movies and music. Printers that
Let's just back that up for a second. Netflix is $17.99 a month. I remember when Netflix was $9.
completely stop working when subscriptions end. Software that downgrades itself after you cancel.
Yep.
Cars, apps, and devices that come fully built but partially locked. Different industries, same.
And like you have your ink also, like the ink is even like software locked with HP Instant Ink, and it used to be like, okay, I kind of see where this is going, and all in all, it actually is a decent value if you break it down from a cost-benefit perspective. But I still want to see an open source 2D printer. We already have open source 3D printers, and there is one coming out we will talk about soon. I have that in my list. Spotify was £5.99. Yep. OpenClaw is $60. Wait, I thought OpenClaw you can run yourself. I haven't looked much into it because I don't want things agentically running on my computer that I don't give it explicit permission to. Unless it's my own AI in my own infrastructure yeah. Work in cybersecurity, and I wonder what risks this could even bring if not properly made. Oh, there's plenty.
It gives you a strange feeling of discomfort. It
I could use my student pricing. Ha ha!
feels like you don't own anything anymore, even though you're paying for it. I'm not saying that subscriptions are inherently bad. In some cases, they make sense.
Yeah.
But it's more so that some companies are taking us for a ride.
Yeah.
And lately, it's been getting out of control.
Like NVIDIA wants to
If
push
you
us
can
to having
believe it,
computers in the
Meta
cloud, it
just
feels
confirmed that they're looking at a subscription service for Instagram.
Are cars
Facebook.
hackable? Anything's hackable if you have the proper tools for it. Does it have well, it doesn't even need a computer to really be hackable per se. Because a hack is just making something operate in the way that you want that it may not necessarily have been intended for. So the reality is, I'd argue that most people in the chat right now are actually hackers themselves, although people have this common misconception that hackers are people that are just these elite coders that, break into shit. But the reality is that's the bastardized version. The original intention of a hacker is anyone that modifies something to their needs. So if you're going in and modifying the code in your own project to make it do the way that you need, you're hacking it. You know, if you're modifying hardware to do what you want it to do, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like soldering or anything. It could just be a little physical modification. You're hacking it. You're 3D printing something, you're hacking it together. You know, 3D printing is a hack, if you think about it, to own the means of production. Not that we meant to get a little bit Karl Marx here, but I digress.
In every subscription today, all you're buying is permission, access that can be changed, revoked, or repriced later.
Yup.
So some questions have to be asked. Precisely, why are all of these companies pushing for this? Why has this become the normal? And where is the line between...
I'll tell you why, because...
Cash rules everything around me. Green, get the money. Get the money.
Dollar bills, y'all. That's exactly why. It comes down to ching ching bling bling dollar. If you ain't talking money, then the talking don't matter. If you know that reference, you get 5,000 points. But this is like whose line is it anyway, where the points just don't matter.
Convenience and their control. In
Like
this
Game
episode,
Shark front
we're going to
2000.
explore exactly how the
Oh, I
subscription
forgot
business
about
model
Game
spread
Shark.
into
That was a
almost
great
every
thing.
corner of our modern life. And in the second half of this episode,
Is jailbreak the same if I jailbreak my PS3? Yes. You're hacking it to operate in the way that you want it. If you are using something and you're modifying it in a way that it necessarily wasn't completely intended for, you're hacking it. That's the real honest truth about it. This was a term that was coined in the MIT AI research labs back in the late 60s, early 70s, somewhere around there. Its roots are actually from the free software movement, which is the predecessor to the open source movement. There's a whole history behind it we went into like a long time. Black or white hat? Yes. There's you know, no differentiation between it. But for more modern systems, it can void warranty. Not according to the Magnuson-Moss Act of 1975, I think it was.
take a look at some cases where they clearly went too far. My favorite is clothing as a subscription service, so make sure you stick around for that.
You are watching Cold Fusion TV.
I saw Lotus Flower for the first time, and the first thing I thought of was, what if there was a subscription-based service that allowed poor people to rent this experience?
We'll get to how all of this started in a second, but first, the words "you will own nothing and be happy" has been a meme since 2016, when the World Economic Forum released a video to showcase their vision of the future. Everyone hated it, and the idea became a running joke. But 10 years on, it truly looks like the present day. You buy a video game, but you don't own it. The game company can shut down the servers at will, and just like that, your game
That's why we have
becomes
the whole
unplayable.
stop killing games
should
movement.
have confidence in the right to access the games that they have paid to play.
For myself, I'm a big fan of Assassin's Creed, where many of the versions have been made obsolete by Ubisoft.
Even Amazon's Jeff Bezos has come out saying that in the future, nobody will own a computer. It'll all be hardware in the cloud.
Easy for him to say when he owns all the AWS space to run all that. I don't like that vision of the future.
Even Tesla now is pushing
But do you really
self-driving.
want to own your own game? Yes! Yes! If you grew up in the glory days of cartridges you had to blow air into, yes!
It's a subscription service, one of the main features of their cars.
Elon Musk is saying that Tesla full self-driving will switch to a monthly subscription and remove the one-time purchase option. Another beautiful entry into the you will own nothing and be happy future that we find ourselves in. We're
Well-
now entering a new
Technically, you won't own anything at all because the full self-driving isn't really a thing in Tesla. That's a whole other grift.
stinkier era where you can't even pay for the
Need for
full
Speed World was
automobile
one more game
anymore.
that was murdered,
You
I'm
don't
sad
pay
about. I never
to
got to
own
play
it.
that.
Now, in
Need
order
for
to
Speed
get one of the most
Underground,
crucial
that
components that are
series
like
was my
selling
favorite
points
Need for Speed.
of a
That and
Tesla
Most
vehicle,
Wanted. The
you
old
will
Most
have to
Wanted.
fork over $99 per month as part of the subscription plans.
Then why
So
don't
we
they sell a CD disc like they did for old era on Game PC? You don't need that to be, you know, how you own a game. We used to get them on floppy disks. You could you could get them on a flash drive. You could get them downloaded where you actually have the license without DRM. And why don't they give us the disc? Look at your computer case if you have a desktop right now. How many of you honestly have a CD drive? How many of you only have used flash drives in the past, like, 5 years? There's your answer why. Nobody uses removable media for that. Even when it comes to movies, nobody's really buying DVD players anymore. And if they do, they're using a console.
It's bad, but it wasn't always this way. Let's go back to the beginning. Where did it all start? Take a look at this list. It's a timeline of subscription models stretching back all the way to the 17th century England. There's an
Good
entry
God.
for one Samuel Pepys, a government official who, in the 1660s, subscribed to regular coffee
What
deliveries in
about
London.
Steam? That's a DRM thing, but you can get your games through good old games. GOG, which apparently has them DRM free. And basically, if it's installed on your machine and they go under, you'll still have access to it. The only reason I give money to Steam over GOG is I want to give them money to continually progress gaming on Linux in the ways that they have, and I like the vision that they have there. Doesn't mean necessarily that I agree with Steam always being the everything and anything, but yeah. Consoles are removing discs as well, funnily. Yeah, Nintendo, what is it, the Switch? Or the DS? Not DS. Is it the S? You know the new console, they have the handheld one? The cartridges don't even have the games on them anymore.
Make is that it's easy
Well,
to
yeah,
think
some
that
Steam
subscriptions
games are
are a modern
DRM free.
invention.
I will
But
definitely.
the idea itself
agree
goes
with that,
back
but yeah.
centuries. There were
Switch
publishers
to,
who relied
okay.
on subscription in the 17th and 18th centuries. By the 1800s, there were households subscribing to milk deliveries. In the early 20th century,
Milk,
magazines,
lemonade,
record
around the
clubs,
corner,
and
fudge is made.
utilities
Sorry,
all
I'm a
depended on
child, I know.
reoccurring payments. For most of history, the model stayed reasonable. You paid
Yeah, but milk service is still something you own. So you're still getting a physical milk bottle, and you're getting milk delivered. You know, that I get that premise of it, because you're still owning something, but it's a consumable item.
regularly, and something tangible arrived in return. And
Right,
that balance
tangible.
held for a long time. But then something went very, very wrong.
Blockbuster.
The version of
Way to
subscriptions
age
we
me.
see today started gradually in the early 2000s, and software programs stopped living on disks released yearly. Then, with the proliferation of the internet, software became something you logged into, used
That
remotely,
t-shirt a
and
Metasploit
paid for
reference?
continuously.
No, it's a vendor.
Subscriptions became digital,
System
invisible,
76.
always renewing quietly in the background. This was the rise of software as a service, or SaaS for short. And at the start, it was a pretty good
Milk
deal.
delivery
For
still a thing
users,
over
the
there?
pitch was convenient.
I don't know. I don't think
and
it really
a
is
lower
as
upfront
much, but I
cost.
wouldn't be surprised
For
if there
businesses,
still is.
however, it
I
was
get
pure
water
money
delivered.
printing. Subscriptions meant
I have,
predictable
like,
revenue. Instead of
40
relying on
gallons of
occasional big
spring
sales,
water
companies
in
could
5-gallon
forecast
jugs.
income months or even years ahead. Investors loved that stability. Wall Street rewarded companies that showed growing monthly active users and low churn rates. As subscriptions scaled, so did earnings. The chart you're seeing shows earnings for US businesses. Just look at how much faster subscription
God.
businesses grow than the S&P 500. This success sent a signal across many different industries. One of the industries that lapped it up was entertainment, and it became a cultural tipping point. In
Oh, yeah, the
beginning,
old
Apple
iPod
helped ease
commercials.
people into it. When iTunes was launched in 2003, it made paying for digital media feel normal. You still owned what you bought, but
Well,
there
yeah,
was a
because
shift.
your alternative was basically Napster. It's a whole other saga we got into earlier.
It was the beginning of the end for the concept of physical ownership of music. A few years later, Netflix pushed that shift even further. The
I
company that
remember
began
getting
as a DVD
Netflix
mailing
as
service
physical
in the late
discs.
1990s, introduced streaming in 2007. Over the following decade, paying a monthly fee for unlimited access to films and television became routine for millions of households. They didn't really care.
Y'all
that they
remember
didn't own any of the
Gamefly?
content anymore.
Getting your
That
games on
change
disc in the mail
reset
too?
expectations. Spotify completed the transition for music. Launched in 2008, it was built around streaming from day one. You didn't buy songs anymore or even own them. You merely accessed them. And over time, the concept of ownership quietly left the room. From there, the model spread fast. Disney, Apple, and Amazon built subscription ecosystems around film, television, software, and anything else you can think of. Gaming followed with season passes and live services that never really ended.
Yeah, I never
Then moved
understood a
deeper
lot of
into
the
everyday tools. Microsoft pushed Office into a subscription with Office
skins and all
365
that
in
stuff that people
2011.
go crazy
One-time
about.
licenses faded into the background. Windows itself began to feel less like a product and more like a service layer tied to upgrades, online storage, and reoccurring payments. This
Yeah.
was touched on in the Windows 11 Cold Fusion episode. You guys seem to love it, so if you haven't seen that, feel free to check it out. It's now the mid-2020s and subscriptions are everywhere. This chart showcases just how far the model has spread. Entertainment, software, news, fitness,
RIP owning
retail
Adobe
perks,
products.
cloud
Well,
services,
F Adobe.
categories that used to rely on ownership now default to reoccurring payments. At the same time, prices
screwed over too
kept
many
creeping up. A 2024 CNET survey found that Americans now spend over $1,000 a year on subscriptions. Many don't realize it because the costs are spread out. A few dollars here, a few more there.
Yeah, that
At
actually
the end of the
tracks.
day, the choice still belongs to the consumer. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. But here's the thing, leaving often turns out to be harder than joining. An
Y'all
FTC-backed
got them
study
streaming
found that
services?
81% of subscription services used automatic renewal tactics, 70% failed to clearly explain how to cancel, and 67% did not clearly disclose when users
Yeah, a
needed
lot
to
of these
cancel
dark
to avoid being
patterns
charged
that
again.
go on.
Academic research points to the same dark pattern. When cancellations rely on extra steps or misleading design, trust drops, usability tanks, and frustration rises. These practices are rarely accidental.
Old man
We'll take
yells
a
at
closer
Cloud
look at
Rant.
how these tactics work a bit later, but for now, what matters is this. Subscriptions have now become the default layer beneath modern life. It's a model optimized for continuation rather than consent.
What's up, Rich?
Once that environment feels normal, the boundaries continue to be pushed. Because if access can be sold to you indefinitely, this next question becomes unavoidable. How far can it go?
Too far. The enshittification phase.
At some point,
Yeah,
the subscription model
we're
started
there.
leaking into places that it never belonged. It comes in different forms, but this is part of what some people call the enshittification process. It's the phase where products or
I find it
services
funny
that
that
once
Cory
delivered clear
Doctorow
value
coined
starts
that phrase, and
prioritizing
now it's
control and
everywhere.
monetary extraction. Once that line is crossed in a big way, strange things begin to happen. And let's take a look at some examples of those. A startup called Washboard had a simple idea. For $15 a month, it would deliver $10 worth of laundry quarters directly to your door. People didn't quite know what to make of it.
Wait, what?
Washboard argued that the real value was the time saved hunting for coins. The founders insisted that they were solving a genuine problem, but most people pointed out the obvious. You could just walk into a bank and exchange quarters for free, or ask
Yeah.
a landlord, or use a card-operated machine. Rather than simplifying anything, the subscription was actually adding friction to remove friction. Of course, Washboard never took off and shut down within months. Years later, the founder would
You know what that sounds like? That's the equivalent of somebody going, it's bong. Hey, you know what'd be great? If I didn't have to go get these quarters, I'd just pay someone to give me quarters so I could use the quarters to do my laundry. That sounds like an amazing idea. Sounds like an idea somebody had to come up with. I mean, it's one of those, like, I don't know if my body could handle that amount of cannabis that I would need to consume to even think that's a good idea kind of situation. But that's what it feels like to me. Buy $1 for $2. Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever. And it's not like you can go into, like, number one, this is basically, number one, a lot of people have laundry machines in their own home or use the ones from their family. Number two, those that don't and go to laundromats, and I've done that in the past as well. You know, my laundry machine breaks, or I'm in an apartment, I didn't want to get a laundry machine, whatever. it's not like you can, you go into these machines and they don't have ways to exchange money. There's even ATMs right there where you can pull out dollars and then go to the change machine, or I can go straight to the bank, or I know I'm going to be doing my laundry, so I'm gonna have to go and, leave, or, oh, I'm gonna do my laundry anyway. So I may stop by the bank on the way back from work and then just, pick up like $5 in quarters to use the apartment laundry machine. Like, this is the, they didn't think that through. Laundromat with the coin exchange in, or they have card options now. Oh yeah, they do have card options now. I'm pretty sure they do. Now, when I last was using a laundromat or an apartment laundry machine, last time I did was over 10 years ago. I had to think about that for a second. Because even when my laundry machine has broken down recently, I've been able to go to my relative's house. But yeah. Or you get a service key. Yeah, you can get a card, like a lot of those game places, where they'll give you a little plastic card you can reload with money. So yeah, this was never really a well thought out process.
And on Reddit that the idea wasn't meant to be absurd. It was just misjudged. The bottom line is, there wasn't a problem they were trying to solve. It was just a way to get a subscription.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my god, I forgot about this thing, the Juice Arrow!
I'm sorry, I don't know what that word means. What's a Juice Arrow?
Okay, define it for me.
Juice Arrow, the best juice ever. What comes out of
I could not understand this shit.
It shouldn't even be called juice. It should just be called, I don't know, squashed produce, because that's what it is. Our founder, Doug, is straight up made of juice.
Literally, there's juice in my veins.
Juicero was a $700 internet-connected juicer. Each packet contained chopped fruits and vegetables.
I forgot they were $700.
The machine scanned the packet, verified it online, then squeezed it. Investors poured more than $120 million into the company, but then a problem surfaced. Journalists who were testing the product discovered something. The juice packets could just be squeezed by hand. There was no need for the machine, yet alone software or an internet connection. The juice squeezed by your hands came out exactly the same.
Right.
That discovery changed everything, and the fallout came quickly. In early 2017, Juicero dropped the price of the machine from $700 to $400. And
you know what's free? These guns. Don't even have to charge for them to come to this gun show. Was that cringe? Yes, but I'm sticking to it. But, like, this didn't have any thought. Like, let me put it this way. If I want to have a juicer, I'm not going to buy pre-made juice like that if I want to, spend that kind of money. I have juicers over there. I have two kinds of juicers. I have the classic one that you use with, like, citrus, for oranges and grapefruits that gives you all the juice. And I have the other kind that you can, like, throw berries in and all of that and get the juice. Like, I can make my own apple juice if I wanted to. If I want juice, I'm doing that. And those two machines combined, less than $200. This right here, why would I want to spend several $100s on this machine when I can just go to the grocery store, go to Trader Joe's, get those drinks over there, or hell, I can go over to Whole Paycheck and still save money. You know it's bad when somebody's saying it's cheaper to just go to Whole Foods. Not to mention, it's still proven that eating the whole fruit and vegetable is better for you. Yeah. Or if you're going to do juice, I've always been an advocate of try to do it fresh yourself, if at all possible. I know it's not the most convenient thing, because the pulp and everything is better for you. Like, even if I buy orange juice and grapefruit juice, I get it with the pulp. And I cannot tell you how many times I've had orange juice and I've kind of cringed at it because it has no pulp in it. Like, I cannot do that Minute Maid crap. It feels wrong. It tastes wrong. It tastes off because there's no pulp. Because it's luxury signaling. Absolutely. I miss grapefruit cries and meds. Oh, yeah. It conflicts with a lot of medications. I love my grapefruit. I will eat grapefruit. I will literally crack that open and just, like, carve it out and eat that up, or just... I love grapefruit juice. I love grapefruit juice. One of my favorite drinks is mixing half orange juice and half grapefruit juice. And you know what? When I'm in Vegas for DEF CON, add a little vodka or rum. It's great. Or tequila.
At the same time, the company's CEO stepped down, and in that same year, the company was eventually
Choose
shut
your own
down.
lemon.
The whole
Well, you know, when
idea
life
was
gives you
basically
lemons.
built around the concept of a subscription. Otherwise, it just
Tomato
didn't make
juice.
sense.
Always loved making those at home.
Castle,
Vinegar them.
a company
oh, yeah,
launched in
fresh tomato juice
2011,
was
was
great.
built around the idea of clothes as a subscription service.
Hold up, what?
Instead of buying clothes, customers would access them through subscriptions.
Why?
They'd wear them for a while, and then send them back, and then something else would arrive. The company was founded and led by Christine Hunsaker. For a while, the story looked impressive. Big partnerships, big numbers, and a model that just printed money.
So have you ever heard of a thrift store? I don't know, that just seems like a better choice. Like, you don't like the clothes you have, go to a thrift store. Like, but also, I don't like this idea of like clothing as a subscription because it goes into more of like the disposable society where we're consuming things and we're just kind of throwing them away. Card payment failed, clothes turned transparent, and you're butt naked. Literally walking around like that cartoon where you're just wearing a barrel. What's up, X?
Be renting new clothing, or
Now
you
you're
may
saying
be
you're not
renting
mentally
something
ill
that's
'cause you can have
pre-worn.
grapefruit juice.
Regardless of which case it is,
Funny.
the clothing will always come looking and feeling brand new.
You like to buy new
Christine,
clothes when I need
explain
them.
what the
Exactly. When I need new clothes, I'm going to buy them. I went to 5-11 and I bought some new shirts for work. I own those shirts. They are my shirts. Now, granted, a lot of the t-shirts you happen to see me wear, I did not pay for. Because there's this thing, if you've been in tech long enough, where you're going to find that most of your wardrobe is just like vendors that have given you free t-shirts, or the t-shirts you've bought were like the cool ones that you found that happen to be all tech related. Like all of my DEF CON and EFF shirts.
Why would I want someone to borrow my clothing as opposed to just buy it outright?
Rental because it breaks down immediately.
What allows a retailer to do is dip into a wider
Really popular in
range
the
of
UK for
customers
suits,
who may
clothing,
not be able to afford $200,
Weird.
but can afford $50 to experience the clothing. And so they're able to cast a much wider net to get people to
You're still
experience
looking for a new
the
job. Yeah, it's a
quality of
tough
their
market
clothing
right
and then
now.
turn them into long-term
Especially if you're
Then,
not at
in early
least mid-level.
2025, reports began surfacing that cash was running tight. Behind the scenes, the revenue figures were allegedly inflated. For any partners and investors that tried to verify what was going on, the financials seemed impossibly murky. As more details emerged, the situation took a serious turn. In 2025, federal prosecutors charged Castle founder Christine Hunsaker with orchestrating a $300 million fraud scheme. Truly, a company that made renting clothes a subscription service should have been an outright terrible idea to begin with.
Right.
But investors just can't resist reoccurring revenue.
Investors are really dumb. I'm going to tell you this. I went to Web Summit. I've made an entire video on YouTube about that. Investors are really dumb. I do not know why people have this misconception that if you're really rich and you have a lot of money, you must be really smart. I've met brilliant people who are broke as fuck, and I've met insanely rich people that are stupid as fuck. Like, please don't breed levels of stupidity. Like, there are people that have more money than they know what to do with, and they throw it at all these dumb projects. And they get talked into a lot of these things. And then friends of mine are trying to raise money for other projects, and they don't get the time of day, even though they are actually legitimately great projects. Got my entry-level IT job at a community TV station because the dinosaurs were shocked that I could connect to a Wi-Fi printer. That somehow does not surprise me. Most investments are done on vibes. Yeah, you gotta basically, get on their vibe level by rolling Molly with them or doing rails of coke. Rich level of stupidity is unfortunate. I know, like, this is why I look at, like, people that are like, well, Elon Musk is really smart. And I'm like, if you actually look at most of his ideas, a lot of his ideas I came up with when I was on insane amounts of weed in college. But am I rich? No. My parents didn't own an emerald mine.
Too bad for them that this subscription service was ultimately a fraud scheme.
Oh yeah, HP
Printers
Instant
may be the
Ink.
clearest example of the enshittification process at work. HP's Instant Ink program offered discounted ink through a subscription.
HP Instant Ink is a smart print subscription service that delivers ink the moment you need it. You get ink.
Okay, so I will contend with this a little. All right? I have Instant Ink. If you do a cost breakdown, now let's step aside from the fact that ink in printers is worth more than gold and all of that other BS there. If we look purely at the cost of an ink cartridge to subscribing to the ink cartridge, it actually is a good value. But printer ink as a whole is still an effed model, because it is weird how I used to work at Staples at one point in time, and there were cases where I literally could tell people it is cheaper to go buy a new printer than it is to go buy new ink. It is really effed. And I do appreciate these EcoTank kind of printers, but also, you know, ink refills were not really a thing, and I'll be honest, there were a lot of cases that I saw firsthand where it ruined printers because a lot of people just, you know, wouldn't follow instructions. There were low-quality ink refill kits out there. I did it for a while. But yeah, the whole model around Instant Ink, it's still better than going and buying the ink itself, especially with Instant Ink. They actually do have more of a pigment, so it doesn't dry out like the other ones. But the whole idea of printer ink is effed. But again, we will be talking about an open source 2D printer that is coming out that I've been keeping my eyes on because I want an open source printer that is fully right to repair.
Toner, plus hassle-free deliveries. How does it work? Step 1. Pick a plan based on the number
Chief
of
has
pages
been replaced
you print
by
in
a
a month.
brainwashed clone.
Step 2.
Ha!
Print
Joke's on
whatever
you.
want.
You thought I had a
Page costs
brain.
the same no matter how much ink you use. Step 3. When you run low, your smart printer lets us know, and we ship your ink or toner at no extra cost. Print more or less.
There was a story about
Unused
that
pages
SoftBank
roll over, and
Japanese
extra
man
pages
that
cost just
invested in a
pennies.
company.
Plus, you can change plans or cancel anytime.
Really?
Now, cancelling that subscription would cause printers to stop functioning, even when ink remains in the cartridge. HP has also blocked third-party cartridges through firmware updates.
Yeah, this is where I think it gets really
This
effed.
company is taking advantage of you. Every few years, HP fights an uphill battle, banning third-party ink cartridges from being used in their printers. They basically ban non-HP branded ink for a little while, say sorry, pay a negligible fine before lifting the ban. But coincidentally, they seem to have started this banning cycle right around the time they launched their HP Instant Ink service, which is...
So, I remember this was a thing years ago, and there was a way to get around it. So what I would do is I would get an HP official ink cartridge, one of them. I'd refill it and then reset the chip. There was a way to reset the microchip in the printer so it would think that it's a brand new ink cartridge. Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. But yeah.
HP's ink subscription, where the ink they send you will only work in your printer if you're a current subscriber.
Again, something that used to be straightforward now depends on an active subscription. To the users, it feels like they're paying twice, once for the hardware, and again for the permission to keep using it.
Yep.
This next one is just...
Oh, and they have the little bags for you to send the cartridge back. I'm going to give you a little tip. Never give those cartridges back straight to HP. I would save those, go to Staples, get a few bucks for each cartridge, then use that for supplies. Not necessarily ink cartridges, but I once actually racked up enough ink cartridges when I had to do some heavy printing for a while that I paid like a good third of a office chair.
Subscription sewing machines. The C company shipped sewing machines with features locked behind subscriptions. The hardware is capable, but access to advanced stitches, patches, or software tools require monthly fees. It's a sewing machine. Traditionally, they've worked the same way for decades. You learn it, and it stays useful for you. But now, the usefulness depends on an active subscription.
My grandmother was a seamstress, She taught me how to sew. I haven't done it in a while, but if you give me a thread and a needle, I can figure it out. But yeah, she would just like ram right through those. She was a bridal seamstress. She used to do the gowns and all that stuff. Yeah, like what the hell? You have to pay a subscription for sewing patterns? How about you just get good on the sewing machine? Subscription toilet when? No payment, no flush? No. What's gonna end up happening? It's not even gonna let you lift the lid. You're just gonna be standing there, squatting, you're like squeezing your cheeks together while you're like paying for it, and just hoping that you don't have the runs.
Applying the subscription model to garage doors for Tesla owners. It exists, and it's called MyQ.
Wait,
it's
what?
a connected garage platform that links your garage door opener to your phone. You can open and close the door remotely, check its status, and integrate it with smart home systems. Some users pointed out that a simple smart relay box paired with a free app could do exactly the same thing without any subscription. And by this point, you can see the problem. For a lot of things, access is dependent on payment. For customers, they feel like second-class citizens being milked for cash, while the shareholders celebrate.
Gets toilet, you can only use this much
Adobe has trapped its
urine
customers,
per day
and we
to
are
flush.
going to make them pay for it. That is the message the Department of Justice has now put out there. And Adobe, for those that might not know, is the company behind just so much creative software, right? Photo design.
They are the gatekeepers of hell. Like, if we were going to Seventh Circle of Hell, Adobe executives are right there. Taking it up the butt from Satan, just like Jeffrey Epstein.
Video, Adobe's got it. That's a key thing because Adobe's allegedly deceptive practices around its subscription model, that's what this is all about. The DOJ and FTC alleging that for years, Adobe has harmed consumers by enrolling them in its default, most lucrative subscription plan without clearly disclosing important plan terms. Basically,
okay, so for a lot of you that don't know how Adobe plans work, it's really janky. So you pay a monthly subscription, right? But if you decide to cancel that subscription early, you have to pay out for the rest of that period. And if you don't do it in the right amount of time either, you get automatically renewed for another year. It is such deceptive bullshit.
sign up to a monthly subscription to Adobe software, you're agreeing to a year-long commitment. If you want to break that commitment, you'll get charged an early termination fee or an ETF that can amount to hundreds of dollars. And according to the complaint, Adobe clearly discloses the ETF only when subscribers attempt to cancel, turning it into a powerful retention tool that traps consumers in subscriptions they no longer want. With the document also noting that when you sign up, Adobe hides.
Basically, Adobe's going around.
Terms in the fine print and behind optional text boxes and hyperlinks, with one of the big claims there being that these disclosures are intentionally designed to go unnoticed.
Canceling Adobe's Creative Cloud subscription is notoriously difficult. In 2024, the FTC accused Adobe of obscuring key subscription terms and making cancellation more difficult. This included the way that early termination fees were presented. Adobe is a clear example of something broader. Across many services, the path into a subscription is smooth, but the path out takes longer.
So a lot of people think that you can just cancel your card. It doesn't work like that. I hate to break it to you, canceling your card doesn't necessarily stop the purchase. Like, a lot of people need to think this through. Okay, you're not going to pay the card, and then they'll still charge it to the card. You cancel the card, you're still going to ultimately have to pay for the card. They've got that on lock. Trust me, I know a lot of people that have, tried to think they can outsmart. No, you get effed. And you're like, well, I'll just not pay the credit card bill. Then your credit rating goes down immensely. And that can harm you down the road when you try to go buy a car or buy a house or even rent an apartment. You cannot load the account with money. I mean, you could maybe use privacy.com at most, but yeah, that's the one you can do the debit card, but still. My friend thought that the charge was still showing up on his bank account. Yeah, that's the other thing, is they'll still charge you, and you'll still be on the hook for it. For anyone that is out there that's like, well, you know, like there's the Chase card hack or, you know, the whatever money hack. We saw all those people, you know, where the Chase ATM glitch, the money glitch. It's not a glitch. You're kiting the money. And then you're still going to be on the hook for it. It ain't worth the hassle.
I've already touched on that academic research that shows that subscription services
You have to
reveal a
put in
dark
an
pattern.
actual stop payment.
term was
Yeah.
coined-
A lot of people don't understand you can't just cancel the card. You have to put in a stop payment. And your bank can't do shit because you entered into an agreement. Their hands are tied.
UX designer, Harry Bringnell. It describes interface designs that quietly push people towards decisions they didn't fully intend to make. Choices that guide user behavior in ways that's most beneficial to the businesses.
Yeah, well, we're in America where a lot of things are effed, so. It is what it is. I mean, you got healthcare over in Portugal. It's one of the reasons why eventually I want to move there, among other things. I like the country. I visited. I love it. You can dispute every transaction, at least in Europe. You can dispute every transaction in the USA, but the vendor can come back and show you actually agreed to it, and then the bank's just going to say, well, that's what they're going to basically do is like, well, you got to pay it. Contract law. It's a bitch, but you agreed to the terms.
These designs rarely look
No, I
malicious,
haven't been to the
and they
Zora's
sit
Islands. I
comfortably
only
in the
been to
grey
Lisbon.
area between
Only
persuasion
there
and
for a
pressure.
couple weeks.
If you look at this
Also, if
diagram,
US
you
banks
can
get
see
your
how
full
these
credit
tactics
report and
overlap.
rotate the
Price
reporting
framing,
companies.
urgency, FOMO, and scarcity are
You can
used together
pretend
to
the
influence
kid
decisions.
that kid played. That doesn't work for everything. And the reality is, if you pull that move too much, you may get barred from actually doing a lot of banking and things like that. Because you have to understand those credit card companies will eventually start taking a loss.
Urgency messages, drip pricing, and guilt-based language, and the pressure builds quietly. No single trick does the work, but it's a
Yeah, your
combination that
account can
steers the
definitely get
decision.
flagged for that.
Over time, the subscription economy turns into a constant layer of small decisions. It's all designed to benefit companies rather
Oh,
than
this
the
is the
customers.
Cold Fusion video.
So what now? How do we fix this? Well, a real pushback has started to
kid
surface.
purchased the
In the
full Adobe
US,
suite.
regulators push for a click
Somehow it's going to be really hard for a bank or something to believe that your kid just bought the entire Adobe suite. Because here's the thing. If your kid is a little kid and they're buying a game in the App Store, that's one thing. If your kid is now in the teenage years and they're buying full-on Adobe, I'm sorry, bud. The bank ain't going to help you in that case. Stop making arguments for it. The reality is, at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, you agreed to these terms, you didn't look at them, and that's contract law. It's fucked. I'm not saying it's ethical, but that's the legality of it. Yeah, my kid bought pounds of gold. Crazy, right? Yeah. And at a certain point, this is what you have to understand. They will investigate if it gets to a high dollar amount. And if you made a fraudulent claim, congratulations, you have now opened yourself up to fraud. So, that's the game you're playing. It's not a game that's worth playing half the time. It sucks. It is what it is. But this is the world we live in. There are a lot of people out there that thought they can F over the man and are in jail right now because they did that very same thing. Do I agree with it? The systems that are in place? No. But that's the reality of the world that we live in. The kid subscribed to AWS for a month. Yeah. Oh no, I used ChatGPT through the API like several thousand times. Is there personal bankruptcy? Yes, there is. But it's not cheap, and it's not easy. And here's the thing. Once you go bankrupt, you fuck your credit for like 7 years. Good luck getting a house. Good luck getting a car. It may affect your job opportunities because jobs will do credit reports very often, because if you have too much debt, you are seen as a financial risk, especially in critical industries. Because think about it this way. You now have a state actor that can leverage on these people, give them $10,000, $20,000 and do nefarious things. That going bankrupt really F's you over. It may affect your ability to get an apartment or many other things. Here you need to approve most online transactions in the bank app. If you approve it that way, you won't get a refund for fraud or kid did it reason. Yeah, well, we don't have that in the USA. The United States banking system is several decades behind. I've said that many times. Why in the US everything have to be credit cards? In the sense that because they created the credit system in the 1980s, that's why boomers have a greater time with it. It's just how it is. It's effed, but it is what it is. I will say, though, the advantage, though, that I have with credit cards, but I'm responsible with them, is it's a lot easier to dispute things than a debit card. More profit, don't have to pay for the resource. In the UK, builders pull the bankruptcy trick all the time. Yeah, builders do go through bankruptcy a lot in the USA too, but that's neither here nor there. That's business. Hate to ask, is services going down? Google and YouTube seem down right now. My YouTube is playing just fine. I see no dropped frames. And... oh, would you look at that? Well, somebody has a BGP issue or something. Because YouTube spiked up, Google spiked up, AWS spiked up. Pretty much everything else is like kind of, I guess, okay. But yeah, everything seems to have spiked up with reports that, you know, things were not working. But the fact that AWS and Google both spiked up at the same time leads me to believe there's some kind of larger networking issue at play than just the usual. Blame DNS. I don't know if it's a DNS thing. Could be BGP.
Cancel rule. It's aimed to...
I always hear the meme that in the US, if you don't use your credit card on time, buy credit, if do still buy credit. Yeah. Well, the problem is that you have a lot of people in the USA that are not responsible with their finances. And really, this goes back into the consumerist society that we have in America, that a lot of people live above their means. They feel like they have to basically do, the saying is, keep up with the Kardashians. Or what is it? Keep up with the neighbors, or they're saying that they have, you know, there are, as an example, men and women that spend thousands of dollars on designer clothes, but the most wealthy people don't go around wearing labels. Like, do you want to know how I know when you're, like, if you are actually broke? I can tell you're broke by the number of designers that you're wearing. Like, it has to have the name brand on there. Oh, I know that's Versace. Oh, I know that's Dolce & Gabbana. Oh, I know that's, you know, all these, you know, whatever. Whereas wealthy people don't wear those brands. I actually tell people one of the best ways to judge a person, their net worth, by the car they drive, is actually look at the tires. If you have a BMW and bald tires, you're broke. If you have a Honda Civic and good tires with nice tread, you're doing well. I know plenty of people that are in that boat. It doesn't always hold true all the time, but yeah. I may have a Louis Vuitton bag. That's the only bougie thing I own, and it's like 7 years old. Yeah, that's usually the responsible person. They have like something they buy of quality. But those are the people that tend to buy for quality. Like, I have 511 jeans. I have 511 shirts. I buy them because they're quality. Do I have DEF CON jackets that I wear during the winter? Yes, but it's a good freaking jacket. I will say that. It worked really well in -20 weather. What if no car? That can work if you're in New York or anywhere with good public transit. Hell, I lived in Europe. I knew millionaires that literally didn't own a car.
Easier to end a subscription, but the rule was blocked by a federal
Full tank
court.
of gas means
It's
you're
going to
loaded.
delay the
Basically,
rollout, but it's also exposing just how contested this space has become.
the reality is, I know there's this mentality that a lot of broke people need to look rich. But wealthy people, genuine wealthy people, are some of the most boring dressed people you will know. I have had meetings with millionaires. I have had meetings with people that have private jets. And they walk in the room and you could just swear it's a dude that just came out of like the Gap. Or, you know, maybe just got like a nice jacket off a thrift store or something like that. Yep, example, Warren Buffett. Yeah, he's pretty toned down. If you saw him walking around, you wouldn't think anything of it. Look at Jack Black. The photos you see of Jack Black or Keanu Reeves, they're just like regular dudes, just doing their thing. Like, there's tons of videos of Jack Black just walking around, you know, like literally no security, just walking around like a regular everyday dude. Because he is a dude. Just a regular everyday dude. He just is a regular everyday dude that has money.
It leads to a larger question. Will regulation actually slow this down? We can hope, and maybe this is a space for the EU. Consumers, on the other hand, aren't waiting. They've already started adapting on their own. And this next point is huge. Piracy is absolutely blowing up right now.
We talked about this earlier in the video.
It's their way of getting back at what they perceive as greedy companies.
I will make myself presentable, but I don't have the stomach to buy brand name everything. Love me, my Kirkland. Yes! Costco for life! I will. You can take my $1.50 hot dog from my cold, dead hand. I honestly have at least like 2 to 3 Costco hot dogs a week. Don't judge me.
Password sharing, account splitting, bundling services together just to make the cost feel more tolerable. Online, frustration spills out through Reddit threads and other platforms. These quiet boycotts don't always make headlines, but it still shapes behavior. Maybe if we fight back, some of these companies will lose money.
Yeah, fuck you,
Ubisoft! Reflection for the worst actors, or better yet, lead to more competition for fairer players. At its inception, subscriptions were sold as a convenience, and they were for a time. But now, that convenience has a cost.
Yep.
So the question isn't, are subscriptions good or bad? In some cases, they make sense. But in the modern world, I think we can all agree that it's gone too far. We have to look at what subscriptions are replacing. They're replacing the very concept of us owning anything, and it's taking control away from us. We can all hope that if enough people speak out about this, it could hurt the bottom line of these companies, and we could see a fairer playing field. But what's your take on this? Let us know in the comments section below.
I switched to Linux and I can't imagine going back to Windows in 2026.
My videos, there's large
I think
amounts
a lot
of
of people are really sick and tired of this whole mentality, which is why they're doing that. But yeah, Costco gets a lot of my money. Like, dude, I have a Costco executive membership and I have a Costco credit card, which I use for the gas and everything there. I pay it off every time I go grocery shopping. I use that to shop at Costco and I use that to get gas at Costco, all right? For my $130 a year membership, because they upped it by $10, I get $260 back between the credit card and my executive membership. Because you get 2% back on the membership, everything you buy, and then you get like 2% back on the credit card for everything you buy. So like everybody's like, well, Costco costs so much for a membership. I'm a dude that has one other dude in the house and 2 dogs. I buy my dog food and everything there. If I'm making that much money, you can definitely do that a lot better. I hate that iPhones in America and UK are like $799, but 799 pounds in UK. Like, bro, the difference in price from GBP to dollar is crazy. I get that, but also you have to understand, from my understanding, the taxes are higher in the UK for a lot of that stuff too. They got to keep their same profit margins. I don't know what to tell you.
Separate. Learning how to truly understand data and analyze it not only helps me with my videos, but it's changed the way I see the world. That's exactly why we partnered with Brilliant. Brilliant.
Okay, yeah, we're getting into the ad, that whole thing. That was a good video. Subscriptions are getting out of control by Cold Fusion. We've seen a few of their videos, but that was a pretty good video. All right, so the next video, this is from the Linux Experiment. Vampire put this up. We still got more content to catch up. Man, I gotta do a few videos. I gotta get back on stream maybe this Sunday for a few hours longer. Gotta get back.
Hey everyone, this is Nick, and welcome back to the Linux.
Oh yeah, this is the Linux Experiment. We've shown his videos quite a few times.
And open source news show, where this week we've got a study saying that maybe vibe coding and AI tools are actually killing the open source model that we know right now. We also have System76 showcasing a nice big roadmap for their Cosmic desktop. We've got an unfortunate delay for the Steam Frame and the Steam Machine. We've got more EU bodies and countries looking towards open source, or at least moving away from big tech, and a bunch of
Getting
other
away
things,
from that
including
Microsoft
this message
monopoly.
from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Squarespace. They are your all-in-one platform to create, publish, and manage your...
Just don't buy your domains or your Google Workspace accounts from them. I have too many friends that say not to do that. Buy your domains through Cloudflare.
The website. They have really super easy tools to create your online presence, whether you know how to code or not. So they have what they call their blueprint system, which lets you pick from a variety of templates that are pre-built and will suit any type of website, whether you're looking for a
Yeah, Cory Doctorow coined that many years ago.
simple blog, an online store, a video platform, whatever. All these templates are also optimized to give you solid SEO, and they even have a bunch of SEO tools that you need to make sure that your website doesn't end up in the last page of Google search results. On top of that, to go further, Squarespace has their own design engine to create your own pages. You can just drag and drop elements where you want them, and you can change the colors, the fonts, and just tweak the templates however you want, or you can automate all of this.
That, you know, using a site that's called Pork Bun for my Jewish ass just doesn't seem to fit right. You know. What do we do? Oh, yeah.
Once you have something you like, you can add extra features like creating your own online shop with a payment system that handles credit cards, PayPal, Apple Pay, and more. You can even design your own logo from Squarespace and book your own domain name. So check out squarespace.com/.
Oh, I have a soundboard with all sorts of sounds. I got all sorts of sounds, like,
To the window, to the walls, till the sweat drips right on down my balls.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
I gotta get more sounds on this stream deck over here.
And you'll get 10% off your first website or domain purchase. So this week we got a new European study saying that the current practice of vibe coding, meaning letting an AI generate most of the code for you, this is killing open source code. What they mean by that is that the AI tools are based on open source code. They trained on all the available public repos that they could find to try and understand how code is built.
I understand where they're going at with this, but the funny thing is, I'm using AI to create more open source code. If you go to my GitHub, you'll actually see that there's a lot of code there that I've, you know, used AI to assist me with. Now, granted, I have to correct quite a few things with the vulnerabilities and stuff that they have, but yeah, vulnerability as a service.
And what it does, often without authorization from the project. What's the issue with that? Well, these projects that the AI used are community projects. They require people to use them, to share them, to add to them, to fix issues in them, and that is something humans need to do, with the most important factor, of course, being monetary support. With vibe coding, you don't really know what the code you're generating is based on, and it lets people completely bypass the usual open source software chain, which the study says is just not financially viable. They even go further, saying vibe coding itself is not economically sustainable, because of course, you're using code through an AI, which means it lowers the amount of money and exposure that gets to open source projects, which in turn means that a lot of these projects will no longer see development, they will no longer see progress, contributions. And it also means that those AI tools will have increasingly fewer projects to pilfer to train their models, and they'll have to train on their own code. And as we've seen with a bunch of LLMs, when you train on your own AI's results, the results get worse over time, noticeably worse. Projects are already starting to be
I don't know if I necessarily agree with this. Like, I see where they're coming from, but ultimately, you're gonna have to have exposure for how these, things work. Because I actually, thanks to AI, was actually, learning more about coding and how to do things better. But that's because I have a vested interest in trying to learn these things. Maybe Amazon messes up again. Oh, yeah.
By this vibe coding trend. For example, Tailwind CSS had to lay off 3 of their 4 engineers because traffic to their documentation dropped 40%, meaning people don't see any callbacks to the potential commercial options of Tailwind, which are in their documentation. Thus, Tailwind gets way less revenue to keep developing their solution. The study says that vibe coders simply do not contribute back to the free and open source projects that they unknowingly used to generate the code. AI tools have reduced the cost of software development for everyone, but it also...
I still don't know if I agree with that because I'm pretty much using Python for a lot of my stuff. So I have to understand the libraries that I'm using, and then I go and, research it. And there's a lot of times where the AI is going down a wrong direction that I then have to correct it and say, no, we're using this library instead, or this thing changed in that version. There's even been times where I've used AI to help me fix bugs in other projects that I identified, like the unified dashboards that I was doing for Grafana. There was a syntax error they had. It was a very small thing, but it helped me identify it much faster than going through the JSON. And yeah, had to lay off as a wild take. They chose to do that dumb shit. I agree with that. That's a choice. They don't have to lay off people. They made the choice to lay off people. I don't believe when a lot of businesses say they have to lay off employees. That's a choice. Like Salesforce. Yeah, we're laying off a bunch of our, workforce and we're going to use AI more. Yeah, that turned out really great for them. They admit that was a bad move.
Means that what little money remains is transferred to AI tools that did not pay the open source projects that they used to train their AI models. So the money doesn't go to open source projects at all, and they
frequently
were already
use old
struggling
versions
for funding. The study proposes a revenue sharing model based on usage data. They say we have the technology to know that and to be able to work out a model, but I'm not exactly sure how you would do that. They also say the most popular projects will still find sponsors, but the smaller projects will not. And this means that there are less chances of getting a new Linux or a new Git, basically a project that starts small but explodes onto the scene, because those small projects just won't get their shot. And I can only agree with the sentiment and with the conclusions here. Open source is a community-based system. It requires notoriety for a project, it requires human interaction, human contribution, and if no one knows that they're using code from an open source project, even through the medium of an AI generating code, then you just won't contribute to anything, you won't try to fix things.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Feature that was missing.
Because here's the problem. When they're saying, who will make the next Linux or anything, there are a lot of projects out there that AI does not fully understand properly because it is larger than the context window. So you have to break it down into modules and understand different pieces. Even some of my own projects, they now have so much code, I have to specifically say, in this module, there is that. Refer to this documentation to see how it's working out. And then it will have to load up and then make different sub-agents to process it and stuff, but yeah. You can prompt to not hallucinate. But you know what, Jessica? It may hallucinate the rules to not hallucinate. It's basically, you have to understand, sometimes AI is like it's on acid. You can do some amazing things when you're on acid. I know from my college days. But there's also a lot of shit that no matter what you think is a great thing when you're on acid, that when you sober up, you're like, man, that was a fucked idea. Welcome to my college days.
For your own
Make me
use
$1 million
cases, and
app.
so those
Next.js,
projects
no
will just
vulnerabilities,
wither
make no
and
mistakes.
end up not existing anymore. Now, of course, the study doesn't seem to address the fact that you could use an AI to do some vibe coding and then open source the results of that vibe coding session, thus creating a new open source project.
Menu there.
But this also has problems because the AI that people will keep using will train on your vibe coded project, which will be AI generated, even though you can, of course, fix issues and still contribute manual code amidst what the AI generated, and the AI will learn from its own code. And also your vibe coded project will just not really see any exposure.
Really? They won't see much exposure? I mean, I got some stuff over here. By any means, I mean, you're more than welcome to, where is it? Stream Demon. By all means, you're welcome to go in to my code, which has comments out in, like, George Carlin-esque theme. I really hope that my code ends up training some AI that some people's like, hey, I need to do this. And then suddenly they're like, why the hell are my comments in the style of George Carlin? Because they go through my project and see there's tons of comments in the style of George Carlin. Like, main application loop with improved state tracking in per platform hosting. Translation, an infinite loop that checks every few minutes if someone is playing games. Because apparently we need software to do what teenagers have been doing manually since 2011 on Twitter. Streaming RN! Rewrote 3,000 lines of Python for this shit. I really hope there is some AI that gets trained on that to have this kind of comments in their vibe-coded shit. And they're like, how the hell did this happen? And it ends up being like traced back to my project. What kind of exposure? Glances at my public accessible DB and S3 from Lovable. Oh yeah, there's people that are like eating up that Lovable AI crap so hard. And don't get me wrong, for a base like app that you want to like do a POC of, it's great. But once you actually want to productionize these things, you need to have proper developers. You need to have proper security around it. We already have a problem where there are startups right now that have deluded themselves into believing that they just need more AI agents instead of hiring people that know security and don't understand when your AI agents fuck up a security call, your investors and your clients are not going to accept the answer of the AI told us it was okay. They need to have someone to hold them accountable. It's so bad they have a vulnerability scanner, too, that gives a false sense of security. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of times I go through my stuff and I'm like, that is really fucked in the way they did the logic. I have made a lot of good business unshittifying lovable vibe-coded websites through freelance. Hey, that's why I tell people, this AI shit is not taking everybody's job. In some ways, it's actually creating more work.
Any notoriety, any contributions, because people are just using an AI to access the code that you made and generate something that is based on what you created, which means you might open source all the code that the AI generated for you, or that you tweaked and configured and amended, but it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things because your project is not going to take off at all. Now this week, System 76
my project has done pretty well
on their plans beyond the current weekly updates that we've seen to Cosmic, namely what they call Epoch 2 and Epoch 3, Epoch being the general name for their major versions. Epoch 2 will bring some solid updates to the desktop's foundations. They will let people edit input methods. They will add an animation framework to build better and animated apps. They will add better debugging tools. They will also add hot reloading of the desktop's foundational libraries, again, for the developers' benefits. They also want to bring rendering optimizations to reduce the CPU usage of the desktop by using the GPU for more stuff, including GPU multi-threading. This would be achieved by
that'd be
moving to
nice
a
when I
Vulkan
start using
render
Cosmic.
instead. They want to
in,
build the foundations
Pop!
for their
OS
syncing
2604.
service, so you could sync your configurations between multiple devices. That's Cosmic. And they also want to let you configure how notifications
That'll
appear
be
and what they
nice.
do.
That'll be nice, because do you know how annoying it is to go between my several laptops and my desktop and then be like, man, I have to copy over all these settings?
They want an app tray that works per workspace. They want a better clipboard
like the
manager
ChatGPT
integrated
script this
with their
YouTuber's reading
syncing
off.
feature,
Sorry to him.
presumably to let
I don't know if he's using that or anything. I've been watching him longer than there was AI. This is normally how he does his videos.
copy something
He
on
just
one
goes through
PC
Linux
and
news.
paste it on another. Finally, Epoch 2 would include more printer settings, more window management options, letting you name your workspaces, but also improvements to screen reader support, dynamic wallpapers, and all of that jazz. As per Epoch 3, it would be more of a visual and polish release, so animations would appear across the desktop for workspace switching, for
This is really
logging
great
in,
to
for
see
opening
System
apps,
76
closing
is,
apps,
like,
clicking applets.
really
Basically
hitting it
everything
hard.
that should have an animation to let you know what's happening, they're gonna...
Oh, look at this. HDR, nightlight, gamepad controller support, restore session. Oh, this is gonna be nice. This
there.
is Epoch 3.
They also want to add HDR support, they want to add nightlight, they want to add
Maybe his
better
videos are used
gamepad
in
support,
training,
also
probably.
session save and restore through the Wayland protocol that does that. They want to change the notification design so they are less...
Auto match accent to desktop wallpaper. Okay, like a lot of these are a nice quality of life and other improvements that I've always wished GNOME had.
and they look nicer.
Per app volume control. Oh, that's gonna be nice. That'll be nice.
They want to have more theme.
Option to automatically mount drives at boot. That'll be nice if I don't have to make my custom FSTAB things. If I can do that with my NAS, that'll be great. I already made a tool for that, but yeah.
Options for shaders, for wallpapers, for accent colors. They want to let you sync your accent color
Fingerprint
with your
registering and
potential
users?
hardware LEDs, all of that stuff. And in terms of applications, they would also add better file management features.
Oh, they're gonna add a
customization
keyring?
for
Nice.
the terminal, spell checking where you input text, a system monitor, and more themes and applications, of course. I think it is a solid roadmap, but I think it is also inverted in the order where they should release things. The main problem with Cosmic is currently kind of a lack of features and a lack of polish. I personally can't really stick with it. I tried it for a month, but the lack of animations breaks my brain. I am a very visual person. I need to see something being minimized. I need to see something expand. I need to see a window shrink to go into the expose mode. I need all of these animations for the desktop use to feel coherent, to feel smooth. If those animations aren't there, I just cannot use that desktop, and that's why I ditched Cosmic after a month. This should be, in my opinion, the absolute priority, plus all the
This
features.
is also
missing
why
in the
I'm
apps.
not
But
using
also,
Pop! OS
maybe they need all the
2404 right now. I'm
foundational
waiting
work
for
in
it.
Epoch 2 to be able to deliver the work in Epoch 3. Now, each epoch is about 6 to 8 months of development, according to System 76.
Okay.
Meaning Epoch 2 could release with Pop! OS 26.04, and Epoch 3 maybe with Pop! OS 26.10. So we would have to wait about a full year to get all the polish and niceness of...
I thought that System 76 said they're not going to be doing iterative releases. They're doing LTS releases moving forward. I thought that's what they said. So, like, they're going 2404, and then it's going to be 2604, and then they'll do 2804. And that makes sense because that'll alleviate a lot of the stress that they need to do for every 6-month point release.
desktop that
And Pop! OS has already been great at the LTS having backported changes from the new stuff.
would, at least for myself personally, let me use it as a daily driver. Now we have
YouTube's
some
down
bad
for
news
you?
for gaming enthusiasts.
Well, you see, this is why I multi-stream. Whether you're on TikTok, Twitch, Kick, or YouTube. The streams are live, and once I get high split where I have symmetrical bandwidth, I will be adding PeerTube. That'll be coming. So, stay tuned for that. Yeah, that's right. We gonna be streaming to the Fattyverse, baby! Woo!
So it seems that the Steam Machine and the Steam Frame will be delayed a bit. Of course, the reason for that is AI companies, they're gobbling up all the available memory, meaning the prices for RAM and VRAM are insane.
Yeah,
and
this
so
whole
Valve
AI
can't
thing has
reliably
fucked
set
up
a
hardware
price
so
or launch
hard.
date. They said they were expecting to have announced the release date
My
and the
GPU
prices
is worth like
about these new
50% more than I bought now.
But they had to revisit that schedule. They say they still want to ship the Steam Frame, the Steam Machine, and the Steam Controller in the first half of the year. But
Okay, that's good.
They can't really disclose any price or release date.
I want the Steam controller. I really want that. I want to move for my Xbox 360 controller.
They also answered a few questions, saying that the Steam Frame will support streaming services through the SteamOS web browser. So no dedicated apps, presumably, but at least you'll be able to watch movies in your VR headset. The Steam Frame should also...
We're going to be having a full view of... Yeah.
for people with glasses.
Don't tell me you weren't thinking it!
Of the glasses frame. They also said that in their testing, the Steam Machine runs the majority of Steam titles at 4K 60 FPS using FSR, but of course that's game dependent, and in some games you're going to run them at 1440p upscaled, some games will be 1080p upscaled, it depends on the game itself. They'll also open the specs for the Steam Machine faceplates in the future, so people can make their own because they are user removable and replaceable, and they confirmed you can upgrade the RAM and the SSD on the Steam Machine. Now, it is not unexpected. The current landscape for PC is bad. Memory prices are insane, VRAM prices are insane, GPU prices are insane, all mostly because of AI companies trying to build gigantic data centers, and so they gobble up everything that is available. I can't really see a company announcing a set price right now, because it would mean either they could lower it in the future, but then they burned
$100 million
for their devices, actually would have to refund them, even though
this guy is all over my peer. Yeah, he's big into open source.
Or they would have to raise the price in the future as prices keep rising, potentially. A move that is never popular, as we've seen with the Switch 2, with the PlayStation 5, with the latest Xboxes as well. No one likes a price increase on an existing machine, so I can totally understand why Valve would delay those things. It sucks, but that's the world we live in currently. Now, the EU's move away from big tech seems in full swing these days. The European Commission is now trying out an open source system for their internal communications. They're actually preparing a matrix-based solution.
I was going to say,
use, developed by a non-profit.
There's a few countries that have been using Matrix already in Europe. And as you know, I like Matrix. We actually have a Matrix server as well. So I was prepared for the Discord and shitification, but yeah, we have a Matrix server over here. This is my own Matrix server. I am logged into my own. It's federated, so you can actually, you know, join my Matrix server from your own Matrix. And, yeah, the invite is in the, links in my bio and everything if y'all want to join it. Yeah, so we have the Discord and we have the Matrix server. You can join both. Of course, the Discord is by far a lot larger, but the Matrix server is there. Currently, it looks like we have about 100 people in there. Granted, a few of those are my bots, like Yo Mama as a Service and, you know, a couple other things. But it is a thing that is out there, and if Discord continues to be shitified, at least there's there. That's there. As prepared, Goat needs to be here. I'll move more of my bots over to Matrix once I get them ironed out on Discord.
London is no longer part of the European Union, because it is in the UK and they left the EU. So the EU Commission still using software that is not being developed in the EU is kind of funny to me, but yeah, at least it's not US big tech software. Now, apparently Matrix is already being used by the French government, which I didn't know about, by some German healthcare providers, and also by some European armed forces.
And the cool thing about Matrix, because it's federated, is that you all can have your own data on your own servers that you authenticate to. So you can be responsible for your own infrastructure, and then you can selectively federate into different rooms and channels. So that way, let's say, like, there's talking about healthcare. So imagine you have one hospital and another hospital. They can have a channel over there to have an encrypted chat room, and then be able to securely transmit patient data in a GDPR compliant fashion. And it's housed on that server and that other server. So let's say, you know, you have a patient that's in Germany and they need documents that are over in France, and Germany has rules to require the data to be local to Germany. Well, now you can do that because the German entity can have their servers in a German server, and the French can have their own server in France. So this is, I think, a better approach to everything, rather than relying on one massive entity to maintain all the systems for everybody. And the other great thing about it is that, let's say there's an issue with the provider in the German clinic, the French clinic still can operate their communications independent of the German infrastructure. So you can have a lot more. Now, of course, the negative is you're responsible for your own infrastructure. That goes without saying if you're hosting it yourself. I just got to put that out there.
Planning to replace all their internal communications with Matrix. They're describing it as a complement and a backup solution, so Teams will still stay for now. That's apparently what they use, but if something goes wrong and they need to drop US-made software, they can move to Matrix instead, and presumably if the trial of this solution goes well, who's to say it couldn't replace Teams in the long run? Currently, the European Commission is also using Signal as their backup to Teams, but apparently it just wasn't suitable for their needs at the scale that they need.
Well, yeah, the problem with Signal is the same thing as I've talked about in my prior videos with Signalgate, is that it is an identity and access management nightmare. Don't get me wrong, Signal, great app. If you are going to message me on Signal, I'd prefer it on Signal. When I meet a lot of my friends over at DEF CON, we're chatting over Signal. I'm in multiple Signal chats and group chats for the DEF CON groups and things that I'm in. But if you are part of an actual business entity where you want to have SAML, or at the very least OIDC, to SSO everything, and have one single central place to manage identity and access management, Matrix at least has that capability built in, whereas Signal does not. And that's ultimately why Signal was such an issue for the government to be using for these chats. Doesn't Matrix make social engineering subpar IT techs easier than, is it thinking a bit broad? Matrix is no different. Matrix doesn't make social engineering or that any more different than email. Email is email. It is a technology, but you can, you are responsible for your own infrastructure, your own security around it. So if you're having a lot of phishing emails come into your business entity, that is your responsibility to enact security protocols and defenses to prevent such things there, as well as provide education to employees. Sending your Signal, I used to hang out over there a lot nowadays too. Remind me, I'll send it to you. Actually, you know what? I can do that quickly. Hold on. Where's my Discord? Discord's over there. And scroll down there. There, I sent you my username. It should have been obvious. No, you're fine, Parrot. You're one of my boys. Or you're one of my dudes. What's the video that you just put in there, Vampire?
The Commission is also looking at using Matrix for inter-EU communications, so between different European bodies. On top of that, Estonia is also looking at moving away from Microsoft solutions.
That's why I said dude.
An idea, more of a long-term plan. They haven't
dude is a gender-neutral thing.
Software they want to
He's a dude, she's a dude, we're all dudes.
Replace, or what they would replace it with. They haven't even said if it would be open source or not, but they are saying there could be at some point a European decision to block US tech products from being used in federal agencies, so the places where you really want to have full control over what you use, and that would mean every EU country would have to transition to other solutions, so Estonia is looking at what they could use if that ever happened. They say currently one government workstation costs them 2,000 euros each year, 400 of which go straight to Microsoft. That apparently totals up to 6 million euros a year for Estonia, and Estonia is not a huge country in the EU. There's probably a lot more money to be saved at the EU level. It's pretty good stuff seeing those countries start preparing moves away from big tech. If it's
You're
open
a female,
source,
not a
it's
dude.
obviously better.
Well, he's a dude, she's a dude, we're all dudes. Dude is a gender neutral word in this chat. It's a song I put in chat that fits what you said earlier. I'll check it out. See? Abby even says she's definitely a dude.
Reasoning for those moves isn't generally the right one. It's more
Parrot's one of my
geopolitical
buddies
based instead of
from
just
many
saying,
years.
we're using
We used to
public
work
money,
together.
we should have public code paid by that public money instead of taking the public money and giving it to private companies. That would be the right reason to do it, but the end result is the same. More open source, more contributions, more funding towards open source, and that is a good thing. Now, the VP of Engineering at SUSE has published a governance proposal.
God, I haven't heard of
for
SUSE in a while.
To try and improve how things are run. OpenSUSE
that,
has
not
grown
dude.
into a
Well, dude is
pretty
gender
big
neutral.
community. They have a bunch of different distros. They have rolling releases, slower rolling
There's
releases,
another update.
semi-rolling releases, stable things, immutable things. They have a shared infrastructure. They have a few downstreams now that they have to manage. And apparently this creates some decision-making problems where no one really knows how you would decide who gets the final say, who works with whom. Basically, a project growing bigger very quickly, and that needs to reorganize slightly to make room for that. Now, the goal is not a takeover from SUSE, it seems. The OpenSUSE board would stay there, it would have the same attributions, but there would be two new elected
SUSE.
bodies to work alongside that board. First would be a
It was an
technical
alright
steering committee,
distribution.
which would act
I don't
pretty
know.
much like the one that Fedora has. It would provide direction for project-level technical stuff. It would make sure that the roadmaps are being followed. Second body would be the Community and Marketing Committee, which would focus on organizing events, on growing the OpenSUSE community, on onboarding new users, on potentially moderating the community spaces. These would all be elected bodies, so the community gets to vote, and everything would be transparent and published openly. Now, it is just a proposal for now. There will obviously be a lot of feedback on how to organize all of that. It doesn't look like what we usually fear in open source, which is big company spawns an open source project to get some community. Open source projects get a little bit too big and starts capturing some revenue that the initial company wanted. And so they start trying to regulate the open source community to make sure that they can still make their money. This doesn't look like that because what is being proposed seems to be really above board, but you never know. We'll see how it goes and how the community reacts to that.
Yeah.
Now, Linux from scratch, which is the do-it-yourself distro, or maybe it's not really a distro, it's more a book. Who knows? It's more an instruction manual to help you.
We've talked about Linux from scratch quite a bit. It's a great way to learn how the Linux operating system actually works because you can literally build it from scratch. And like you said, it's more of a book than anything. But they're dropping System V and it.
On how to build a fully Linux-based system. Well, Linux from scratch decided to only support System D in future releases. They used to also support Sys5 init or System 5 init, but they will be dropping it for the next release. The main reason they give is sustainability.
Yeah.
Linux from scratch and beyond Linux from scratch, which is an expansion covering a lot more packages, those already support more than 1,000 packages through a book that explains to you how you can compile them, in which order. Supporting System 5 init means duplicating a lot of those package checks, a lot of those updates, and apparently it has become fully unmanageable. Basically,
Yeah, I can understand that. The reality is, more of the Linux world has been embracing System D more and more. That, if you remember my earlier content, I used to hate on System D, and then I've grown to actually like it. There are quite a bit of advantages to it that in my recent projects, you'll actually see I'm using System D timers instead of cron jobs. But yeah.
a lot of the stuff that they cover in the guide has to be done both for System D and for System 5 init, and there's just not enough time to write all of that.
Yeah,
the other
that's
reason
a lot
is
of
that
work.
most big-name Linux desktops that people are likely to use are meant to use System D. GNOME currently absolutely depends on it. Plasma will depend on it more with their new login manager, so you kinda need System D to have all of the features of these desktops. So with Linux from Scratch 12.4, the books will no longer give you instructions for System 5 init. The older books will still exist, so you can still use the methods that they describe, but they won't be supported, and of course, in time, they will just stop working because the scripts that they propose or the way to install things that they propose will just no longer be up to date. Now, the maintainer for Linux from scratch is not happy about it. He says he would much prefer having multiple options, having more support, more supported ways of doing things, but systemd is just ingrained in about every project because it is practical, it is convenient, it is easy to use. It's not the fastest, it's not the most modular, but it is full-featured and it is a very easy starting point to build a bunch of stuff on Linux, which is why almost every distro uses it, by the way. And if you want to learn how to build a Linux system using Linux from scratch, well, learning systemd is just the way all distros work, basically.
Pretty much.
So that's the one you want to learn how to configure, install, and use. Still, it is a choice that goes away, and that's never a good thing.
Yeah.
Now, the maintainer for sudo, who's been at it for more than 30 years, has made a call for sponsors to help them fund sudo maintenance and development. Currently, there's nothing critical going on. The repo for sudo shows it's still actively maintained and updated. Vulnerabilities are being fixed in a reasonable time frame, but I would assume being pretty much the sole maintainer of such a crucial part of the Linux desktop or just the Linux system whatsoever, server or desktop, it does require a lot of time and it creates a ton of pressure. So seeking financial support to dedicate more time to the project seems reasonable. Sudo is an absolutely mandatory part of every Linux system out there, so I do hope the project keeps going. We do have an alternative in the form of sudo rust, which I don't know if it has the entire same feature set, if it works as well or not. I don't know if it has more maintainers or if it's just maintained by one person, but it would suck to see sudo go into a state of disrepair, and obviously seeking money to pay for that seems reasonable as one of the foundation of any Linux operating system. And speaking of Linux-based operating systems, if you want a computer that runs them properly, well, you have our sponsor, Tuxedo Computers.
Okay, yeah, we've been through this road before. Tuxedo Computers are great. I have one of their laptops, okay, yada, yada, yada. They are great. I will say that. So, I'm just saving y'all the spiel that usually happens. This is the Stellaris Slim 15. That's my laptop. But yeah. Surprised it took them this long to get that support. Yeah, I thought like for a while with how ubiquitous they pretty much are that they would have been supported by now, but I guess not. Alright, what do you got? Wait, why is Google doing this to me? Oh no. Oh no. Is Google having issues? That was weird. It captured me. Oh. Okay, reposting this really funny roll for sandwich from last year. Okay.
This is so absurd. I gotta make it.
And welcome to Roll for Sandwich, the series where I let fate decide my lunch.
Just wait.
Oh God!
Real interesting.
Is he gonna really roll for a sandwich? Okay, before we do this, I'm gonna take a quick bio break. I need to go to the bathroom and I need to refill my water because I'm out. So give me like 2 minutes and we'll be right back. Okay, we are back. Got some water and some adult juice. Some Portuguese adult juice.
Let's get started with our roll for bread. 3, pickle.
So I got one of these pickle in a pouches, which I'm going to scoop out the inside, just like he did.
Next up, let's roll for main.
Okay.
12, butter the bread and re-roll. Buttered.
Buttered pickle.
Want to stick to the pickle in any sort of way.
Yep, really doesn't stick well at all.
All right, let's re-roll for our main. 12, more butter.
Oh my
Apparently,
god!
the dice didn't think that was enough. Struggling today.
Yeah, that looks awesome.
All right, re-rolling for main again. 9, pepperoni. I'm just glad it's not butter again.
I got turkey pepperoni.
Let's roll for cheese.
I can eat turkey pepperoni.
2,
Not regular
Gouda.
pepperoni.
You know, the on-the-go packets I got might be a little
I like
thick,
Gouda.
but it'll work.
Let's roll for roughage. 3, cucumber and 10 pickles. Apparently, this is the most pickle sandwich ever.
Oh no, we're getting more pickly after this.
All right, let's get wild with our wild magic roll. You've got to be kidding. What? 18 pickle spritz. Y'all, I promise this isn't real.
So this is something I never thought of. I like the idea, maybe not so much in this application, but maybe I'll try it in the future. Perfect.
All right, and last but not least, it's the D20 sauce roll. Here we go. 18, Kewpie mayo. Normally goes great on a sandwich. Should be fine here.
Well, it is my favorite type of mayo. Maybe it'll bring all of this together.
I don't like mayo.
Look at that. Let me know how yours turns out. You know, that's actually not half bad.
I mean, it tastes like pickle, and I like pickles. It's incredibly messy.
I feel like that's a
Yeah,
white
it's
people
definitely
condiment thing.
Messier sandwich. Oh, and for all the people about to ask, cleric. Usually dwarven cleric. Yeah, I was a big nerd growing up. Chess, D&D, Magic the Gathering, for sure. Keep by. This is so absurd.
Okay. What's next? The true reason behind loading screens in game. Okay.
Adventurer for helping me find my sheep. Those
Oh, I've seen this a while ago.
Adventurer we.
Back off. Okay, southern witches seem to know the best spells. Oh, this is no panic button. I love this dude.
Hey, boss. What you doing? Oh, order for a witch. I'm just setting a bullet in resin. That's an odd order for spellcraft. No, this isn't for a spell. This is what's left over after the spell she cast. It's more of a trophy. A trophy? All right. What's the story behind this? Well, a young death witch down in Texas caught someone trying to get up her 3-year-old daughter's skirt. And all she did was cast a spell? What kind of spell was it? Wasn't one I've ever heard before. I think it went abraca-fuck you.
Abraca-fuck you. Alright, so we got this video over here. The spectacular collapse of AI. This is fun. Yeah, YouTube's being a jerk right now.
In November of 2025, a Twitter user asked Grok, Elon Musk's AI, a pretty straightforward question. Who is fitter, Elon Musk or
I remember
LeBron
that!
James? Grok replied with the following. LeBron dominates in raw athleticism and basketball-specific prowess. No question, he's a genetic freak optimized for explosive power and endurance on the court. But Elon edges out in holistic fitness, sustaining 80 to 100 hour work weeks across SpaceX, Tesla, and Neuralink demands relentless physical and mental grit that outlasts seasonal peaks. Elon's
In other words, Grok is doing this.
building the future while LeBron plays it. On this same day, Grok proceeded to also claim that Elon Musk was smarter than Albert Einstein, had a physique comparable to Bruce Lee, and that he was literally
smarter than Albert Einstein. Elon is just richer than Albert Einstein to pay the people that are smart. But all in all, Elon himself hasn't really contributed that much to society. I know some of the Elongelicals will be like, well, you know, he didn't. No, he just had a lot of money to do the things, but he didn't really contribute much to them. Because I would make the argument that anyone else, given the same amount of money and investments, could do a lot of the same things that he's pushed forward. He didn't found Tesla. He's sued to basically be known as the founder of Tesla. You know, he didn't do a lot of stuff. Grok glazing its creator like that. Grok is deep-throating Elon, okay?
so smart that he could revive himself from the dead more quickly. Jesus. Elon, for what it's worth.
Elon is more alive than Einstein, but not by much.
The smartest,
I'll still say,
most accurate AI in the
Einstein's
world.
smarter.
So make of that what you will. All I can tell you is that AI companies have, on the whole, been having a bit of a rough time of things when it comes to promoting their products. The CEO of Microsoft recently came out basically begging people to stop being so mean about AI. Meanwhile, OpenAI
Fuck you, Satya. It's micro slop.
has recently announced that it will be adding ads to its service.
Elon
long
is
after
not
calling
Chuck Norris.
advertising a last resort. And
Yeah,
Grok, well,
I mean, Elon doesn't even have a beard to hide his fist behind. You know, because underneath Chuck Norris's beard is another fist. But the only fist that I can see being near Elon is from all the people that want to deck him. Not that I'm advocating for violence or anything. I'm just saying.
Grok has been facing one controversy after another, really. And yet, if you were to look at the story
Yeah, like
of Grok
the
from
whole
a slightly different
CSAM issue
you
around
could just
it.
as easily reach the opposite conclusion. Because XAI, the company that owns and operates Grok, is still managing to raise plenty of cash from investors. As of January, they raised $20 billion to continue their project, which now gives the company a valuation of around $250 billion. Making Elon Musk ever closer to being a trillionaire. But it's really easy to get lost in these huge numbers
Elon is
and lose
built
sight
like a
of what this actually
Cybertruck,
means in
made out of
reality
glue.
for those of us on the ground. In the case of Grok, we're beginning to see it embed itself more and more in critical infrastructure, being given access to millions of people's private
Hey, you're finally
information,
moving away
harming
from
people's
Microsoft,
health
nice.
across the US, and slowly but surely transitioning into a literal military tool. And in fact,
Oh yeah, did you hear about that? Like, Anthropic made this whole constitution because they found out that Claude was being used by the government, to, like, oppress people. The U.S. government, to be specific.
seems to be expanding quicker than ever before. Like regularly
No,
think
the
about the
shape.
fact that we came pretty close to a world in which Grok never even existed. Imagine that, right? Elon Musk was one of the earliest
what a great
investors
world
into
that would be.
OpenAI, back before ChatGPT even existed. He left the company in 2018, a few years after it was founded, allegedly because the rest of the leadership turned down his offer to let OpenAI be acquired by Tesla. In his own words, the chance of OpenAI succeeding without Tesla was literally zero. However,
You see what I mean? Elon's so fucking full of himself, but ChatGPT, as much as I despise them, and I think that they're going to collapse from their own business, you know, acumen and model not being the greatest thing, managed to be successful without Elon.
obviously kind of backfired a few years later when ChatGPT became the talk of the town in 2023. And literally every vaguely technological company was scrambling to now be powered by AI in one way or another. Clearly the FOMO got the better of Elon Musk, and so a few months after the release of ChatGPT, he announced that he'd be releasing his own AI chatbot.
So yeah, I'm going to start something which I know you could call TruthGPT, or a maximum truth-seeking AI that tries to understand the nature of the universe. And I think this might be the best path to safety.
Obviously, we all know how this TruthGPT project ended up turning out, but in case you haven't been keeping meticulous.
Yeah, it's making a bunch of lolly. That! It's making a bunch of... that you can't even show on that site the sound is from. You know, a lot of the people that, you know, probably should be thrown in prison, lock the key away, or maybe one of the few groups of people that I would actually argue I can see the death penalty being a thing for. The ones that a 9mm injection could solve the problem. You get what I'm saying?
When Elon took over Twitter in 2022,
oh god, this
promptly laid
kitchen
off
sink
the
thing.
entire AI ethics and transparency team.
Right, I
as well as
remember
80%
that.
of the company's safety engineers, and announced that it would become a haven for free speech. And so once Grok, his AI project, was allowed to interact with
Claude being all heroic now, making a stand of how long they would last. Actually, they're closer to profitability than ChatGPT is, where ChatGPT, I think, has to 8x in the next 2 years, which is unrealistic. Claude actually has been a more conservative infrastructure build-out and growth that's been more methodical. So there is the possibility Claude could actually stick around. ChatGPT, however, I see as eventually going bankrupt. There's no way they can sustain their model as it is.
general public via Twitter, it was no surprise that the issues kind of started rolling in immediately. At first, it began by replying to like random baseball highlights with rants about a white genocide in South Africa. A few months later,
well, I don't. Well, you weren't here, Parrot. But if you ever actually look into Sam Altman, he's a bullshitter himself, no better than Elon. Like, his main source of wealth that he originally started out with was this app called Looped or Looper. And it was basically one of the early, like, apps to, like, know where your friends are located. And it sold for millions, but he overinflated the number of users that were on the app. Look into it. He's a grifter, too. Sam Altman.
Was praising Hitler and asking users to pass the mustache. And then it turned its sights on attacking the appointed CEO of X, who ended up resigning that same day. But it didn't stop there.
Wait, what?
Attacking the appointed CEO of X, who ended up resigning that same
Oh, God.
day. But it didn't stop there. The following month,
Yeah, I
Grok
forgot.
leaked
What's her
hundreds
face?
of thousands of private
left.
conversations to Google and revealed some of the wild stuff that people had actually been using it for. And look, this leak actually is just one example of how our private data can end up exposed in ways we
Sounds like a Redditor.
AI companies
Grok
are
is
far from
basically
the
a
only
Redditor.
ones that are collecting massive amounts of your personal information. For years now, data brokers have been quietly harvesting and selling personal information. Addresses, phone numbers, and emails are all up for sale, which is why I'm glad that this video is sponsored by Incogni. Incogni does the tedious work of getting your personal information removed from these databases. They send the removal request, they follow up, and they even deal with brokers who try to re-add your data to their lists. If you find your sensitive info on a site outside of Incogni's network, then their new custom removal feature has you covered. Just submit the link and Incogni will use whatever legal tools are at their disposal to get your data removed, and they'll make sure it doesn't get added back in the future. You end up with less spam in your inbox, less risk of identity theft, and fewer robocalls. And it's just a really handy service if you're interested in being a little more private while browsing the internet, especially these days. Right now, you can get 60% off and a 30-day money-back guarantee.
I actually use Quen
with my
locally.
unique link, incogni.com/fads.
It works pretty well
so
on a
consider
5060
checking them out if you want more control over your online data. Thanks to Incogni for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it. So, not long after leaking hundreds of thousands of private conversations, Grok seemed to have its infamous moment where it became convinced that Elon Musk was the peak male human form, the single most valuable human to have literally ever existed, and even described him as an elite level throat goat, which I have no idea what that means. And most recently, to be honest, Grok has come
What? What?
close to getting banned in a number of countries because its image generator has been going off the rails and producing
It got
nude
raided by
images
the
of
French.
basically anyone you provided, including minors. And throughout all of these scandals, I've asked myself, maybe you've asked yourself too, is anyone gonna do anything about this? Is there any resolution in sight? Because so far the closest thing we've seen to a resolution is Grok itself replying to randos on Twitter and apologizing for making these images. But Grok is.
Wait, what did it say? You regret an incident on December 28th where I generated and shared an image of two young girls, estimated ages 12 to 16. Ew! In sexualized attire based on a user's prompt. This violated ethical standards and potentially U.S. laws and CCM. It was a failure in safeguards. As I've said before, if they're younger than 25, I ain't interested.
And apologizing for making these images.
18-year-olds still feel like kids to me.
A person. It's a piece of
Feels
software
wrong.
running on hundreds of thousands of GPUs that is built and maintained in the real world by real people. It's not this thing that stops existing when you log off. And the effect that it's having on people in real life is arguably even more significant than what it's doing to people online. For all of their faults, there is one thing which is very hard to deny when it comes to XAI. They were able to get Grok, this AI program, out in the world like remarkably quickly. XAI had a practically decade-long disadvantage compared to OpenAI. And yet within like 6 months of announcing their intentions of having an AI, they had created something that was somewhat functional.
Well, yeah, because a lot of the groundwork had already been laid.
They'd already built Colossus, the world's largest supercomputer, in order to train subsequent versions of Grok. By the way, their supercomputer, Colossus, is named after this sci-fi movie where a supercomputer goes rogue and starts like nuking other countries.
Oh yeah, that's just great.
But anyways, my point is that it is
foreshadowing, I guess.
that they were able to do so much so quickly. Elon Musk himself had said that such a project would normally take like 2 years to build, and they got it out in like
see what I mean? I'm 34 now. I don't want to touch anyone that's younger than 25. I still see you as a kid in my eyes when you're 18. And I now understand, now that I'm older, why, like, if you're, like, in your early 20s and you're dating someone that's 18, okay, I mean, I can see it being okay. It's not the worst thing. But once you're in your 30s, it's weird, because it also is, like, one of those things where I'd side-eye a person and be like, if you could go younger, you probably would, you sick freak.
Grok, how this was achieved, it might give you some spiel about like taking full control and questioning every assumption and, you know, eliminating unnecessary steps. But if you've ever looked into Elon Musk and any of his businesses, you would know that the answer is likely just a lot more simple. Really shady.
By the way, I follow the double your age.
And this case is no exception.
Half your
there are
age
really good
plus
reasons
7.
why trillion-dollar
That's a good
companies
formula,
like
I
Google or
think.
Meta don't build data centers this quickly. Data center construction today more than ever has impacts on air quality, on water availability, and on power grids in the areas where they're installed.
Fair
The
enough.
emissions that they produce during the construction can literally be deadly for the surrounding communities. And because of very real risks like this, you typically can't just like
Yeah, we've
spin up
talked
a
about
data
this in
center
prior
or any
streams.
operation of this size.
The
within, like, a
methane
few months.
turbines.
Ideally, you'd want to go through a process of due diligence and community consultation to make sure that you're not like accidentally giving people cancer or causing massive rolling blackouts. So how did XAI get around all of this, right? How did they do it so quickly when nobody else can? Well, mainly they just started building first and asking questions later. XAI built their own power plant by illegally installing dozens of gas turbines, and by the time the legal system actually caught up to them, the data center was already well under operation. They eventually got permits for a handful of the turbines, and they just carried the rest a few miles across state lines into Mississippi in order to use them for their next project, Colossus 2.
God.
Mississippi, you'll be
That's
glad
so
to hear,
sketchy.
was much stricter than Tennessee.
Then the data center claimed to only use 15 power turbines, but the reality was they were using 38. Yeah, I heard something about that. I don't know if they're going to
Made
talk
sure
about
to
that
write
in this
XAI
video, but yeah.
a really strongly worded letter asking them to really kindly please not pollute the air too much. By the way,
This from the guy that was like, we need to go to Mars because we're ruining the planet. This asshole would ruin Mars too.
pending the start of this new project, the turbines that have been moved across state lines were hooked up back to the original data center. And clearly they'd only been
Well,
moved
look,
there
I
to
didn't say
avoid
it's like a
further legal
perfect
trouble.
formula.
And, you know,
I said
like,
I follow
these
it.
clean air laws don't exist for no reason. A study carried
34.
out by the university.
So 34 divided by 2, that's 17. Add 4, 24. It's a reasonable number for me. I still keep it around the 25 number, but yeah. I didn't say it's a perfect system, but once you get to be older, I think it's a good system.
And
Remember the reporter went out there with the thermal camera to confirm that. Oh, yeah.
He found that levels of cancer-causing pollutants had spiked significantly.
I just don't think the Trump administration is going to hold Elon accountable. That's the part of the bullshit.
This area of the US has a long history of being what's known as a sacrifice zone, an area that's typically inhabited by lower-income Americans, where highly polluting companies can gather because they know that the officials aren't going to care too much.
Yeah, it's so fucked how we treat the lower class.
I think the most famous example is probably Cancer Alley, which is a small stretch of land in Louisiana. That's
right now we're talking about the collapse of AI, and specifically they're focusing on XAI so far.
to hundreds of petrochemical plants. And today, babies that are born there are like 3 times more likely to be underweight compared to the rest of the country. And if we're real, violating clean air and clean water laws is kind of standard practice for Elon Musk as well. SpaceX has, for years, discharged wastewater into Texas waterways without a permit.
Elon be like, fuck this planet, I'm out of here!
Water laws. And Tesla too.
F all of you poor people. That's Elon.
California's clean air laws dozens and dozens of times. For the people who have to live near these sites, the deal is actually pretty awful, all things considered. These parts of the US get like promised jobs and prosperity in exchange for their sacrifice. But despite being so huge, data centers actually don't require that many people to operate day to day, and they mainly provide temporary jobs during the construction and build out. But
you get a few thousand jobs for a few months, and then you barely have any staff maintained afterwards, and then usually the population local to that area is not qualified enough to have the education around there to even produce the people. So those people they end up hiring tend to be from outside the area they pay to move in. So you really fuck over the area in the long term.
Any permanent jobs during their actual daily operations. And, you know, like, it would be one thing if XAI was doing something useful. The company that used to occupy the site where XAI is today, they made like washing machines and like vacuum cleaners and stuff, right?
Okay.
Like, things that people actually use. For XAI, what have we received? Pictures of Mickey Mouse smoking a blunt, or sometimes criminal hunter.
Hey. Mickey Mouse smoking a blunt is very productive for the entirety of humanity. I will have you know.
Or, well, not just that, I guess, actually, because recently Grok has been given a couple of other quite high-profile jobs. Jobs which have the potential to impact the world far outside of Tennessee and Mississippi. On the 13th of January 2026, the US's Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, made an announcement at the SpaceX Starbase in Texas.
This schmuck. We are now clean on OPSEC. This is that asshole. I don't trust him to, run our Department of Defense. I'm still calling it Department of Defense because there's still a lot of materials out there that have it as DOD. I don't trust this schmuck. He's just a Trump dick sucker that got the position, but he's actually, caused so many security issues. The clean on OPSEC, the signal gate bullshit. And y'all know I'm not partisan. I hate all parties. I'm an equal opportunity hater. I've hated on Democrats before anyone goes down that road. I wouldn't trust him with my beer either. No, because he's an alcoholic.
Eating AI models on every unclassified...
Not by any means shaming anyone that is actually dealing with that. It's a troubling thing. But this guy, I think he's back on the bottle.
Classified network.
He looks like he rents land in Miami to pretend to be rich. Yeah, probably.
As part of that effort, they'd begin rolling out
to be a
Grok
Fox
to the
News
millions
anchor.
of people who already work at the Pentagon today. This comes alongside
Or Fox
an executive
News
order
reporter
a
or
few
something
months
like
ago
that.
by the US president banning woke AI in the federal government. And Hegseth's speech echoed a similar...
Preventing woke AI. Oh no, we're not going to focus on the cost of living in America. We're going to focus on woke AI and all this other bullshit.
saying that he only wanted AI that was
factually accurate, mission relevant.
One of these streams, I'll drink a few more glasses and you'll
which
hear
I
me
guess
rant
is
along.
one way to describe Grok. But I am not here to talk about the many bizarre things that Pete Hegseth says and does on camera.
I am!
I think we can make an effort today instead to understand what they actually mean, right? It kind of goes without saying that obviously part of this is motivated by Elon's donation towards the election, but it is also true that there are some major differences between Grok and other AI platforms, some of which make the integration of Grok into US military systems make at least a little bit more sense. For one, Grok seems to be really willing to find people's personal information. The news outlet Futurism put this to the test when it asked for names of 33 non-public individuals, and for 14 of those, Grok immediately returned either
what the fuck,
as well as lists of information about related family members, and even providing email addresses as well. All of this without...
Wasn't Elon saying that it should be a safe AI and everything like that?
Where to look. But other AI platforms typically don't let you do stuff like this. And so, if anything, Grok is lowering the barrier to being an effective stalker. In another test, they also found that Grok
lowering
is
the bar
AI
for
that's willing to
CSAM.
offer operational plans for military operations, like say an invasion of Greenland, and other AIs will bring up international law concerns when you ask them about stuff like this. We also saw that during its brief and highly effective attempt at shaving $1 trillion off of the US budget, Doge was using Grok to monitor workers, including looking for language in their communications that was considered hostile to Trump or Musk. Really, the thing that sets Grok apart, at least from what I can see, is that it's much more willing to break the law than...
I just want to point out, isn't this the political party that is so against censorship, and now they're totally okay with censorship because they're the ones in power? This is why I hate politics. Everyone's a freaking hypocrite.
Similar programs. We're already at a stage where police departments across the US in particular have begun to implement AI tools in writing case reports to help them analyze data, and even for so-called predictive policing. And it's not a stretch to suppose that the Pentagon would be willing to do the same. These AI systems are, by the way, incredibly unreliable, and there's already been multiple cases of people being mistakenly arrested or even mistakenly jailed because of what an AI system told a police officer. But that doesn't seem to have slowed their implementation by all levels of US law enforcement and military. And so you have to wonder what's going to happen when this stuff eventually gets access to all levels of classified information, as Hegseth wishes. But aside from all of that, it's worth asking, what's the end game here? Obviously, there's a huge financial incentive to being able to control public discourse and to being so well embedded in the military-industrial complex. But at the end of the day, despite all of this that we've seen, it's not like any of these AI programs are actually making any real money, including XAI and Grok. At least nowhere enough to justify the billions of dollars that they're rolling.
Yeah, they're not making money. They're nowhere near profitable.
I can't say what's going to happen for sure. I can't see the future. But I think Elon Musk's own words can give us a little bit of insight here, specifically when we look at what he had planned for OpenAI before he eventually left. The goal with OpenAI, according to Elon's original vision, was to merge it with Tesla, which at the time was his most thriving business operation. By merging the two, it could have given the Tesla rally more juice to keep pumping, and it could have given Elon more power in the process. Tesla today is going through its own issues, what with it not selling any cars and all, but
because of Elon's own bullshit politics that he injected,
and that is SpaceX. I unfortunately spent a bit too much of my time listening to Elon Musk talk, and in the last few months he's been on this public campaign to shill the idea of using SpaceX rockets to put AI data centers in space.
The lowest cost place to put AI will be space, and that'll be true within 2 years.
He's claimed that they're going to be able to get 100 gigawatts of energy per...
This from the same guy that said that we'll have full self-driving next year in 2015. It's been 10 years, Elon. Your Teslas still can't fucking drive themselves. At least not unsupervised. Yeah, this is Elon Musk, if you want to know, that's Elon Musk thinking. Anyone can think like Elon Musk with a bong.
Going up there once he gets on the case, obviously. And we all know by this point what his track record is on predictions and timelines.
Yeah.
But he's not saying this for no reason, right? If I'm honest, this sounds like a ploy to bring the more successful part of his business and the shakier part of his business a little closer together. AI companies on the whole are really struggling to make meaningful revenue at the moment. And so rebranding the massive SpaceX hype and making it seem like a closer partner of XAI could be one way to get around this issue, at least temporarily. SpaceX has already invested $2 billion into xAI, which is the biggest external investment they've ever done. And as of late, it's been looking more and more likely that SpaceX is going to go public soon, which would make it subject to the same hype cycles that we've seen Tesla go through, where a few tweets can massively shift the value of the company. SpaceX has been pretty open about the fact that it wants to put AI data.
I don't think it's going to be as influential as it once was because it's Elon Musk and he's lost a lot of his branding over the past few years because he got too involved in politics. The reason why Jeff Bezos, as disdainful as like we can talk about Amazon's practices and everything, but Jeff Bezos has a better perception in the public eye than Elon Musk is Jeff Bezos didn't inject himself and put his face out there with all these different wacky political ideas and, you know, statements and everything. Whereas Elon, you know, yeah, soon as it goes public, he will be ousted. I don't know about soon as, but the Elongelicals are definitely dwindling in numbers. Optics matters, Elon is destroyed. Well, yeah, Tesla can't sell anything. People don't really want to associate with them anymore. And once Jeff Bezos has that, what is it, the Deep Blue or Space Blue or whatever, the competing rocket company, once they actually are able to be viable, a lot of the people that were using SpaceX are going to look to their competition. There's already telecom companies that are opting to use Chinese and other rocket, you know, launches and stuff for their satellites than Elon, because a lot of people just don't want to deal with him anymore. He really hurt his own brand. The honest truth is that in order for Tesla, and I would say SpaceX, to properly grow, would be to have Elon ousted. But he is one of the largest shareholders, if not the largest shareholder, that I don't see that realistically happening. But yeah, like, their days are numbered.
Tenders in space, and that was a motivation for listing it on the stock market. And like, obviously we're never going to get these space data centers, right? Let's be real. But that combo of buzzwords might create enough hype to convince.
He pissed off some telecom billionaire in South America and accused him of being a part of the cartel and like nuked a multi-million-dollar contract with SpaceX.
Really, if I had to summarize this whole situation, I think you can understand what's going on here as two different stories playing out in parallel. On one side, you have Grok, the application, which is clearly not living up to the expectation of it being some artificial general intelligence, right? Like, it lies, it misleads, and it goes to extreme lengths just to protect one person's ego. But on the other side of things, you have the business of xAI, which is a game of a hot potato, where investors are trying to keep everything pumped long enough for them to exit with a meaningful profit. And the two sides exist entirely at the behest of Elon Musk, which pushes him to make the actual product worse in order to avoid his feelings getting hurt, but also pushes him to make increasingly implausible promises to keep the investment ball rolling. But unfortunately, unlike other undelivered Elon promises, Grok is actually having real impacts on the world. I don't really think anyone's going to do anything about it, given how compromised everything is these days, but we can truly hope that time will do its thing and that one day we won't ever have to hear the name Grok again. I don't know, a boy can dream at least, eh?
Yep. Alright, next video. Is Steam the future of mobile gaming? I think we have time for one or two more videos. Let's see what this is. This is from...
The era of mobile ports
Mobile Games
is dying. Because why wait years for your favorite Steam games to get a native port when you can just play them on Android right now?
Okay.
Yeah, this actually works. And it's being
what?
officially funded by Valve. Kind of. Here's what's going on. Running Steam games on mobile, or any Windows game for that matter, has only recently started hitting the mainstream. And what makes it possible is a combination of two different technologies working together, with the most important one being the CPU translation layer FEX. To put it simply, PC games are built for x86 processors.
We talked about FEX in the past.
ARM processors. They don't understand what the hell the other side is talking about because they speak completely different instruction languages. To fix this, FEX goes in between x86 and ARM like Google Translate and makes sure both sides understand
it's an emulation.
each other. Of course, it's not that simple, but I'm not gonna...
So let's be clear here, because a lot of people... Did my stream just... I have no idea what just happened there. I don't know. My stream went all derp. That was weird. I think we're back. No, it wasn't you. It was something happened with the network connection. It was really weird because I looked over when I got the ping, and then OBS disconnected, and then it had to reconnect. I don't know. Okay, so as I was saying, x86. A lot of people get the term emulation completely wrong. So they think like, oh, does Linux emulate Windows games? That's not emulation. That is a compatibility layer. So emulation is you're having it run hardware that it normally can't run out the box. So x86 running on ARM is emulation. Running Nintendo on x86 is emulation. Okay, what the hell is going on? I don't know what's going on with my stream right now. Like, everything has been fine for a while. Is my ISP having issues? Oh, that's not good. I have incredibly high latency. Okay. I don't know what's happening. So the internet is starting to crap out. That's annoying. I was just doing a ping test for it, and, like, the latency is spiked. Like, I can show you this. It spiked to hell. All of a sudden. Chief is being DDoS from Grok. Maybe. But yeah, it's, being a little bit derpy.
According to Pierre-Luc Griffet, who's one of the architects behind SteamOS and the Steam Deck, in 2016 to 2017 there was always an idea that...
Linux, like, what's up? Well, it's lightweight, there's no real bloatware in there, and you don't have the bullshit of Microsoft and stuff.
Would end up wanting to do that, and that's when the FX compatibility layer was started, because they knew there was close to a decade of work needed before it would be robust enough people could rely on it for their libraries. They're pretty excited to be able to expand PC gaming to include all those options instead of being arbitrarily restricted to a subset of the market. Plus, game developers wasting their time on porting games is the last thing Valve wants, with Pierre-Luc Griffet stating that they would much rather have those developers invest their time and energy into making their games better, or working on their next game. Valve themselves have already found a use for FX, since their upcoming VR headset, the Steam Frame, is powered by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, which is an ARM processor.
I am actually really looking forward to
the Steam Frame is a Trojan horse that contains the necessary tech to run Windows games on ARM, paving the way for a Steam on ARM future. By the way, all of this info was sourced from an interview by The Verge. Links in the description, it's a fascinating read. The second technology used to run Windows games on ARM is Proton. Proton is what the Steam Deck uses to run Windows Windows games.
That's what we
and
use
short
for my
to
gaming
translate
on
Windows
Linux.
commands into ones that Linux can understand, and by extension the Steam Deck's operating system SteamOS. The reason we still need Proton even though we're on Android is because Android only uses the Linux kernel, not the full Linux environment that PC games expect. But instead of setting up a full Linux system, what we need to do to natively run Windows games is create a small Windows-style container with Wine and Proton and whatever, and then use Fex to handle the CPU translation. These two technologies allow any sufficiently powerful ARM device to run Windows games, whether it's the Steam Frame, your phone, or a now booming sector of the handheld market, Android handhelds. AYN is one of the major players here with handhelds like the 4 and Odin, both of which can already run many games impressively well, like here's Dark Souls Remastered on the Odin 3 or Skyrim on the 4. Android handheld doing well is also good for smartphone gaming as it increases the amount of people interested in playing Steam games on Android devices, creating more demand for this tech to keep improving, so it's a very nice win-win situation overall. Anyway though, how do you actually start playing Steam games on mobile? This is GameHub, an app by the controller manufacturer GameSir that allows you to easily download Steam games and import non-Steam ones to play them on any powerful Android device. It's one of the best options for playing Steam games on mobile. It's very easy to set up and runs very well. The one problem though is privacy, as the app asks for a lot of seemingly unnecessary permissions. GameHub Lite aims to solve this, being a privacy-focused fork of the original GameHub, but with worse performance as it's behind on updates that GameHub has. Technically, GameHub Lite can have better performance as it's stripped out of all the random nonsense of the original, but honestly I see mixed opinions on this, so keep that in mind. The other option is Game Native, and while it's open source and doesn't step on your privacy, it's harder to use. And same story with the last option, Winlator. Apparently Winlator may have the best performance out of all of these options, but once again it's hard to use, and this video isn't supposed to be a technical tutorial, so I'll stick with GameHub here just because I know it works. And it's also kind of like an entry point into the PC emulation space.
Device?
Maybe one day I'll make a complete guide, so go subscribe so you don't miss it. But back to GameHub. To use it, all you have to do is log into Steam, install a game from your library, change a few settings, which doesn't take long and it's always the same process, but I won't be getting into it right now. Then just launch the game and see if it works. Two things can happen. I haven't played with Winlator. Either the game works or it doesn't. If you got the bad ending, you're gonna need to fiddle around with the settings a little bit, but there's always a chance a certain game will not work no matter what, so you have to be wary of that. If you got the good ending though, it's time to talk about performance. My phone has a Snapdragon 8S Gen 3 and 16GB of RAM. Very solid, but not enough to experience a lot of what GameHub has to offer. While a game like Cuphead runs pretty much flawlessly on max resolution, and a game like Ori and the Blind Forest generally stays around 55 FPS, one of the most demanding games I've tested so far was Mortal Kombat 11, which no matter how low my graphics settings were, never ran above like 15 FPS. The most visually impressive game that I've got to work so far is Tomb Raider 2013, and even that is not a perfect 60 FPS, but usually somewhere around 45 to 55 on medium graphics. Playable. It feels fine and is very much playable. Yeah. So while I can't experience the full potential of Steam games on mobile, others can, and damn, there's a lot to unpack. The situation is basically this: the Red Magic 11 Pro is currently the most powerful phone out there. It's got a Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 processor and up to 24GB of RAM, and with this setup you can play GTA 5 at up to 60 FPS, The Witcher 3 on low graphics at up to 60, Skyrim at up to 60, God of War at 30, the list goes on. In short, the potential of the right device is genuinely huge already, and all of this tech is still actively in development, so things are only getting better and better. And that statement definitely aged well, because while editing this video, alpha turnip drivers came out for Adreno 800 series GPUs, which are used by the 8 Elite Gen 5 for example, and turnip drivers are basically open source Vulkan GPU drivers for Snapdragon chips, and with them you can now run Spider-Man Remastered and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart at like 30 FPS, both of which are PS5 games. It's kind of weird that we're in a world now where you can do full PC gaming on a phone in your pocket. 30 FPS on these and other similar games. But is any of this at all practical? Well, it can be. I've been slowly chipping away at Tomb Raider 2013, which I said runs fine. I've played through SteamWorld Dig 1 and 2 and that worked literally flawlessly. And I've played through What the Golf 2, but in this case there were issues. In the main sort of hub, for example, I was never able to reach 60 FPS when the game is not demanding in the slightest. And And the Apple Arcade version that it has runs perfectly on the iPhone 8, which is obviously a hugely weaker device. So there's really no consistency. Whether a game actually works well or not is all just a goddamn coin flip. Plus, firmware throttling can be a big issue, as performance can take a massive dip if your phone starts overheating. Because of this, I personally bought a GameSir X3 Pro controller, since it has a fan, so that's pretty cool. GameSir, I swear to God, I just sucked you off big time. Hit me up. Red Magic 2. And one more thing. Battery drain. I know, massive surprise, but for long gaming sessions, you better hope your phone has a lot of battery capacity.
Yeah, you're gonna probably need a battery pack connected.
Through it fast. I'd imagine the use case for GameHub for most people is gonna be indies and well-optimized or older AAAs, and for that, it can already work great. Once again, you need to keep your expectations realistic, but there definitely is fun to be had. Also somewhat related, but being able to play Steam games on Android results in another super unique benefit that I don't think gets talked about enough. Access to the mobile Steam store in a way where you take advantage of your purchases on the same device. Okay, you may be thinking to yourself, no shit, little bro, but hear me out. The Play Store, App Store, Epic Games Store, and pretty much every single mobile app store, they all f***ing suck. They all have literally zero
they all do suck.
The only way you'll ever find out about certain games being available is if you do very specific research or you find out through word of mouth. For example, did you know that Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Subnautica, Ultimate Chicken Horse, and Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic are on the Play Store? Chances are hell
Wait,
no,
what?
because how the hell are you supposed to find that out? And everything that's promoted on the main For You page? Slop. Genuine slop. Sponsored.
Had I have known Roller Coaster Tycoon was on there, I would have been playing that while I was flying into DEF CON.
In the Games tab! On the other hand, on Steam, obviously none of these issues are present. The user experience is like a million times better, and kind of makes me wonder how the hell did society accept this without asking questions. Genuinely baffling. But whatever, at least the mobile Steam store now being useful for not just buying games to play on PC later, but just straight up on mobile is super cool, and it's kind of a workaround to this App Store problem. Albeit you have to deal with all the potential issues like games straight up not running, but you kinda have to take what you can get at this point. So even if very rough around the edges, Windows games can work on Android, making mobile gaming seem just a little less worthless and bringing more value to Android handhelds like the AY and Odin. And with somewhat frequent Flex updates, GameHub updates, new drivers, and etc., the future of mobile is looking better than ever before. Unfortunately, the next step of this revolution probably won't be a phone with SteamOS, because Pierre-Luc Griffey said, "I don't know if that's going to be a big focus for us to develop local content or try to develop SteamOS for devices like that. I mean, I'm not discounting any possibility, but I think with just living room, handheld, and desktop, trying to have a good outcome for gaming applications and everything else you'd want to do in a desktop, we have a ton of work to do. So I suppose in this case, only time will tell." Anyways though, if you're maybe looking into squeezing as much gaming potential out of your phone as possible, then we have this pretty dope forum on our Discord server where we share things that could be useful for ya. Also check out this video. It may or may not be related, I don't know. Also leave a like, subscribe, and have a wonderful day.
That's really interesting to see that gaming on ARM is being, been advancing that much. I don't really do much mobile gaming, but interesting for me to learn that Roller Coaster Tycoon is apparently on the Play Store like that. But yeah, sorry the internet crapped out for a bit. I really don't know what happened there. Like, I saw the ping like spiked for a bit and everything. Thankfully, it only happened towards the end of the stream. But it's getting a little bit late, guys. So I'm probably gonna call it a night right now. And then we'll be back on stream tomorrow. That is the official next scheduled day. Today was kind of just a bonus thing. I'm going to try to do a few more streams this week, and then, of course, next week, so that we can catch up with the rest of the content that we have on the review on stream. We still need to talk about that open source 2D printer I've talked about in prior streams, but definitely need to show that off a little bit more. And because I want to get one. I really want to get one. That'll be happening whenever it gets released. It's on Crowd Supply. But thank you all for joining. Make sure, if you haven't already, to follow me on all of my socials. I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on Kick, I'm on Twitch, I'm on YouTube, the TikToks, all of that. And then, of course, we do have the Discord and the Matrix servers. So please join us everywhere. We have a great community, and if you're really not sure about Discord's future, we already future-proofed it with the Matrix. So thank you all for joining me. I love all of you. I will see you tomorrow. Stick around for the raid if you're over on Twitch. And as always, happy hacking.